Meyer backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Trying to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hittner off to the races. Hittner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 365 Sports on this Wednesday afternoon. Hope you've had a great day today, and we hope to take you for the next 3 hours through a lot of college football and some other nuggets also today. Garrett Ross running the mothership. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina here with me on set. Emery Winter here, and King Jiu-Jitsu, who we're going to bring in a little bit later on today for a quick segment, is the one that's throwing out all different directions, social media, the content, and every way you could imagine. Andrew Valade. So yesterday we had the story, guys, about Sacramento State that it appeared as if they were going to be bypassed when it comes to FBS. Then there's the story today that they are going to be leaving. They'll be joining the Big West Conference in July of next summer. And then also the fact that they were delayed, that they might end up going independent when it comes to at least this year with college football in the FCS.
Yeah. So they're they're going to go full steam ahead. Like, Craig made the great point yesterday I think we were talking about the playoff. It's the same way with Sacramento State. Like, if they don't get their way, it doesn't change the fact, like the money people aren't going to just, go, nope, that's it. We're going to buy an amusement park. No, they're just going to wait another year. Like
some teams, Tarleton had to wait a long time, and some have gotten immediate approval.
But here's the thing. If you could bypass it by asking and filing for a waiver and they give it to you, you'd be silly not to ask, because if you don't, then you're definitely not going to get it. So, all right, well, they're not going to get the waiver. That's a bummer, but that doesn't mean the plan is totally derailed. So they'll be an FCS independent, which should be fun for them in the FCS, traveling, all over the place, playing their games. But, their plan is not derailed. It just takes a little bit longer.
Well, the plan can be on track if they get that waiver.
Yeah.
I think to be clear, guys, the oversight committee suggested that they not be allowed to jump. They didn't say you're not allowed to jump. They suggested that you're not allowed to jump. And now, after the oversight committee did that, it will go on to the Division I Council, who will give word on whether or not they will get that waiver. So that's where we are. Yesterday, it was a suggestion by the oversight committee to not allow them to jump up. And so now they await the final word on whether that will be the case or not. Meanwhile, today, what the news is that all of their other sports are going to join the Big West, effective, as this says, July 1st of next year, everything but football, because they're clearly waiting word on football. They need to know whether or not they're going to get that waiver. If they get that waiver, then they can jump up to FBS as they have intended on doing all along, and they will be an independent while the rest of their sports are in the Big West. So we know where their sports are going to be. The only thing we're waiting on now is whether or not they will be allowed to jump up to FBS. And as I pointed out yesterday, and I don't think we had the full picture at that time, but as I pointed out yesterday they don't have a landing spot in the FBS.
Yeah.
So they'd have to be an independent, which is probably something that's working against them because we're sitting here talking about contraction. And all of a sudden you got like 10 schools that are lining up trying to jump up into the money pool, which is interesting unto itself. But nothing's completely settled yet on football, but yesterday is looked at as a bit of a perhaps setback because it would have been better had they said, yeah, go right ahead. It's a great idea. And then it would have been green lights galore and they'd have gotten their way. But now they're in a position where they have to wait and see what the Division I Council says on their ruling next week.
Mack Brown, who does that great job with Extra Points, he said, listen, here's why they aren't able to do anything initially. And you mentioned this. Typically, if you're an FCS school that wants to reclassify, you need three things. You need an invitation from an FBS conference that has not occurred. You need $5 million, and you need to complete a long application to the NCAA, one that requires detailed information about department fundraising, academic support, athlete care, facility improvements, and more. But right now, there is no FBS conference that has invited them to join them.
Yeah, so they don't have anywhere to go, which was my point yesterday, and just the general kind of initial response to that report. And I don't know that I probably had the best information as far as the full bigger picture, but after looking into it more last night, it's like, yeah, it's not the end of the world, but it is a blow. And so you are hoping that you get the proper ruling next week so that you can continue on with this grand master plan that we've heard so much about and all of these donations that I would imagine many hinge on meeting certain criteria of, getting granted to be in the FBS, because why is somebody going to donate you these millions of dollars to be an FCS team? So that I think is a huge decision that's looming for them. It's not the end of the world. If they don't get their way, they'll just continue to attack it from a different angle. But yeah, that's still to be determined. That yesterday wasn't you're not allowed. And so that's the end of the story. It's just the next to last chapter as far as this go round of them trying to get up into the FBS.
And because they do not have a conference that's invited them, and Mack Brown reporting he doesn't think anyone's even close to doing that, but because of that, that is why they need the waiver.
Yeah, and everybody's like, well, Liberty joined and they got a waiver. Well, Liberty, as the report said, and they had quotes from I was looking at it yesterday, but they had some quotes in regards to Liberty, and it was just basically centered around the fact that, well, when Liberty did it, it was 2017. You guys think anything's changed since 2017? Just slightly, as far as
not just 8 years, but
what a school has to do to be an FBS team now. So I think that went into their ruling is like, you don't have a conference. It's the NIL Wild West. Even the major conferences don't know what the hell's going on half the time. So like, yeah, I don't think you're quite ready to do this just yet. So we'll see if there's a different ruling next week. But the suggestion was made yesterday for them to eventually rule next week that they should not be allowed to do that at this time. So today they've accounted for all their various other sports. So their future is settled for now, but this is all hinging on football. That's the big moneymaker. That's the big investment. And so we will know more when that happens. But if not, getting that green light, then yeah, I believe they said they will be an independent in the FCS, and then I guess would go and attack this from a different angle to try and eventually get what they want, which is to get to the FBS.
Well, and look, the Liberty example you gave is really good because look, Liberty's plan was we're going to just shove all this money into this, until we get where we're going to go. But even then, things have changed, and I know that's Sacramento State can keep saying, "Look, we've got the funding, we get the funding." I think that the committee's saying, like, well, not about the funding, it's about the sure, great, fund your way into a league that wants you, and have all these other things, and then
they
we'll
have
check
all
the
of
box.
That. Yeah, they have everything set. They just don't have anywhere to go, at least at this particular time. And Mack Brown also was reporting that this, of course, is part of the simmering of what might be on the West Coast or in that Pacific time zone, and why also the Texas State story that we discussed even last week and also again this week has been up as well.
Yeah, and so they will, I guess, I don't know what the plan would be for football if they don't get the ruling that they want next week, because they don't have football in the Big West. So
they're going to be an FCS independent.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but they're also going to not just settle on that. They're going to look for other options for football, is what I was getting at. So yeah, they would have to be an independent right now, based on the fact that the conference they've now pledged every sport to that they can. That conference doesn't have football, so yes, technically football will be an independent, but you could always go and try to arrange something else. So I don't think they're going to just go, all right, we're independent, that's the end of it. I think the indication was, you go out and flesh out whatever other options may be on the table as far as your football program goes. But yeah, I mean, at worst, you're an independent. I don't know how all that works, but it's something to keep an eye on here over the next few days. And again, that's a school that I don't know that I ever even knew existed, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible. I'm sure I've come across their name in a box score, but it gets confusing with San Jose State and various other similar types of schools. And so we've heard a lot of chatter about them and the big hires they've made and the big money pledges they have. And it doesn't look like they're just going to take this and, walk away. They're going to continue to chip away, but it is a different era. So they don't quite meet, all of the categories like having a conference to go to. But they're not going to stop trying. That's for sure.
Now, Brett Bielema, here's the quote. He was asked about the college football playoff expansion. Let me read the quote. I don't think there's any way we could do a 16-team playoff in the SEC if the SEC is not at 9 conference games. We voted unanimously as Big Ten coaches to stay at 9 and actually maybe have an SEC challenge. That's the non-conference game. I was told that they voted unanimously to stay at 8 and not play the Big Ten. But then some people pop off and say what they want to say because they want to look a certain way. Some of the responses to this from Bielema, who was not always the most likable guy, there have been a couple of things that he has said where I saw some responses from people. He's starting to make me like him, like Brett Bielema. And so we hear a lot about what happens in other conferences. This from Brett Bielema, who's trying to turn Illinois into more than just make a bowl team. And there he is with that. He made a couple of, a comment or two, even 2 or 3 weeks ago that got people's hair on the back of their neck up.
Well, look, it is, it's funny how things mirror each other. We're in a political battle between the SEC and the Big Ten right now, right? And their coaches in the Big Ten all voted for one thing. The SEC coaches voted for the opposite thing. And these two conferences are the ones who are in charge. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
That's pretty much our life.
Yeah.
All the time right now. So it spills over into football.
You have 2 big, huge entities, if you want to call the conferences that, and a lot of power, a lot of ego, a lot of money. And it all looked like it was going to be seamless and they get everything and run to wherever they want. And now all of a sudden, wait a minute, we're pretty good too.
So, yeah. And I've got some numbers on this for people, just to kind of back up Brett Bielema here. Look, this was from Chris Vanini and Brandon Marcello's article yesterday, talking about, how there's disagreements. Okay. Total Power 4 games among the Power 4 conferences. The ACC has 94. The Big Ten has 93. The Big 12 has 88, and the SEC has 82. So they play the least amount of Power 4 games. The ACC, which plays the same amount of conference games, plays 12 more Power 4 games than they do.
Well, it's about one a game, one a team.
Yeah, one a team more than they do. So, and then look, part of that is because a lot of them play the SEC, but they don't all have that FCS opponent stash like the SEC does. And, so it's interesting to see. The ones in the middle don't surprise me at all. The Big Ten and the Big 12, because they play 9 conference games. So those numbers should be high. What did surprise me was the ACC with 12 more Power 4 conference games overall as a conference than the SEC. And the SEC keeps saying, well, our schedule's really hard. It's really hard. It's really hard. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. But they are, playing the least amount of Power 4 games. So.
Yeah, I appreciate Brett Bielema being a guy who's not afraid to say what's on his mind, even if that ruffles some feathers, especially in the southeast part of the country. And I know it goes both ways. So there's been a lot of chatter from both sides. I don't think it's across the board the SEC coaches don't want to play 9 games. I do think there are some that are in favor of that, but is it not the athletic directors that are the ones that are really as far as digging in on the money portion of that? Is that not what we've heard all along, or is it the other way around? Because I feel like there have been some SEC coaches that are open to 9 games, but there's a discrepancy with the athletic directors.
I think that they have split on both ends.
Well, I mean, the one part that I know the athletic directors are definitely driving the ship is on the AQs, and that's the playoff, and maybe that's more what I'm thinking of. But I know that there's mixed opinions, at least in the Southeastern Conference, as far as the 8 versus 9 games. I've seen some say that they're in favor of it, and some say that they're not. LSU's Brian Kelly in May of 2025, the wish of the room among SEC coaches is to add a game versus a Big Ten opponent in scheduling. Now, that's a different story, obviously, than 9 conference games, but I don't think that everybody's in full agreement on that. So there's a lot of, I think, just split opinion on all of these topics. I hope we get to a resolution sooner rather than later on this whole 9th conference game thing. But there's definitely some fighting going on, and it's going to be, really fun to watch those two leagues kind of politic against each other, because they're both very good at it. They both have a lot of weight behind them, and they're the only ones that really can look at each other eye to eye in matters like this, because they're the two that have the power. So, there's going to be a tug of war. There is a tug of war, and it's political, and I just kind of want to see us ultimately get to a point where hopefully the SEC's at 9 games, not because of any typical argument, but just, hey, I'd like to see that. I would rather see, Oklahoma play a 9th game, even if that's a tougher game, than watch them play, Southern New Hampshire or something in week 11. I'd rather see them play South Carolina, even if it's maybe a loss on the schedule. So I like uniformity. I like when everybody's just doing the same thing. And I understand that there's different weights for certain schedules, and that's the crux of the entire argument over this thing, over all of this really, is the toughness of the SEC schedule versus everybody else. But I'm a fan of uniformity. You're going to get the benefit of the doubt. Your teams can eat an extra loss more so than a Big 12 team or an ACC team could. I think history has not proven that over the last few years. But, hopefully this can get squared away, because at this point, the back and forth is getting less entertaining on that 9th conference game.
When you have two big bullies, and that's a negative tone. When you have two big 800-pound gorillas, not everything's going to be perfect. They're going to want a little bit. They're going to fight for their turf, just like they know the other guys on the other side of the aisle, or at least it's supposedly a Big Ten and also SEC alliance when it comes to scheduling. That's not even official. That was a nice idea. Maybe it's a great idea. Whether it happens or not, I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to see it as a fan of college football. I mean, let's drop the party lines for a minute, because you talked about politics and the similarities. I feel like with realignment, that's created political parties called conferences now, basically. So I'm over that when it comes to having to involve that in every little thing. As a college football fan, first and foremost, I would just like to see the SEC play 9 games, like I said a moment ago. But it is entertaining every once in a while to see somebody, whether it's a Brett Bielema or name another coach, kind of take a swipe at the other one. And for as much as people want to kind of brush aside other leagues or what have you, there is going to be plenty of showdowns, I think, in the future between these two leagues. And this is just one of the first big ones that we're watching kind of unfold slower than I would like.
Cody Nagel today will join us at 3:40. He wrote an article on CBS.com about the best transfer portal players since it began. I think the first year was 18. Lots of discussion there. Steve Cofield, he is the sideline analyst for UNLV Rebels football. He'll join us. I think he works for Q in Vegas as far as the ESPN group. Also today, Brent Brennan, Arizona Wildcats football coach, and Mack Brown, the Hall of Famer, joins us today as well. In Paul's Top 5, Andrew Valade has already put up one of the polls, a couple of the poll, and the results will come on at around 5:55. Now, a couple of other notes. Amanda Kristovich, this was yesterday, didn't get to it yesterday, but as revenue sharing arrives, coaches and pro contracts will that could complicate transfers, create risk for both athletes and schools, that you can, in fact, the concept on the table. This, to me, is a no-brainer that there will be player buyouts.
You're
coaches leave, they got buyouts. Either they pay or the school they go to pays, and I think that would help maybe cut down some of the transfer portal movement too.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things I'd like to see about a buyout is I think that,
signing a contract with a buyout in it will make the signer of said contract, especially if you're 18 years old, really think about, is this the place you want to be for sure for 2 years? Are you like, and I do think that there's going to be outs where they don't have buyouts and then other things. But if they build buyouts into the contracts, that will make you have to think about it a little bit more. And I think that that will stop the rash of a lot of the, well, I didn't play this year, so I'm going to go. Look, if you are at certain positions and you are blocked by two guys because you all came in around the same time and the guy 1 year ahead of you won the job, particularly at quarterback, I kind of get that where you're like, well, I could go here and play now as opposed to waiting for 3 years because we're, all that. But the whole, maybe it just slows down the emotional, like, well, I didn't play this year, so I'm going to go. As opposed to, well, maybe you stay here at a school that you liked or the coach that you liked initially that's accomplished and you get better and then you play and then you'll play at the next level. You have a better shot than transferring 3 times because once you start the dominoes falling, it's hard to maybe kind of get them back.
I mean, it sounds fun on the surface and sounds like a good idea, but it sounds like it'd also be very messy, and it wouldn't apply to everybody because you're not really worried about the buyout of like a third-string wide receiver if he decides to go enter the transfer portal. I also think there is the problem of a quarterback who I think how your lure guys is like, we're not going to put a buyout. Oregon wants you to sign a contract with a buyout, but we're going to give you the same amount of money and no buyout if you decide to leave. So then I think you use that as almost another lure. But yeah, I think there is something to that being effective and maybe preventing some of the jumping around. Like the immediate thing I think of is Quinn Ewers. Like it felt almost like he just went to Ohio State, grabbed a paycheck and came back to Texas. And that was his plan all along. And that one I could see where you go, all right, we need a buyout because I don't know how all in this feels with you. And so maybe he would be a guy that would have signed a buyout.
Well, and had the law been the same in Texas that it was in Ohio, he never would have gone there.
Yeah, he never would have.
He just would have gone to Texas and sold kombucha that way.
Yeah, so I think, maybe somebody in a circumstance like that would have been a candidate for that. But yeah, I don't see that being like the norm in most of these contracts. I think it's just probably too tedious ultimately. And there's just not a lot of guys that you're ultimately all that worried about losing such a massive investment for. But for those bigger, $4 million deals and what have you, the Nico Iamaleavas and those types of players, then I could see where that gets put into play. Certainly, it's another thing that's professional. So as we go professional, it just makes sense there's going to be more things like that. And I still think it's a little bit messier than just, hey, we'll slap that on there and that solves things. More of a case-by-case basis, but no surprise that there is going to be an attempt to implement that in some fashion.
All right, so we've gone through that. Now, this is a lengthy story with Chris Vanini. It's just to touch on it, though, that they are trying to figure out, is officiating a problem? I would think that every fan in America, even if your team won every game last year, which nobody did, but is officiating a problem? Chris Vanini with an article after a string of high-profile calls, we should be seeing more consistency. To me, in my opinion, it's over officiated. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't problems and that they can't fix them. But to me, it just seemed like there's so many delays that there's so many reviews, so many of this and that. You want to get it right, but to me, the game is slowed down, and I think that's annoying to me.
I can tell you right now, my memories of McLean Stadium last season is like in the first 15 minutes of this game, there's going to be a review over something that doesn't matter at all. And it's like every week is bang, right there is like some completely meaningless like measurement of it just felt like we got into a review almost automatically in the first 30 minutes of every game I went to last season.
Yep.
Especially if it was a Big 12 game. They love to go to the review booth
and from the other side of the field
and go and then take just their sweet ass time. It completely kills the momentum of the game, especially when they do it early. So it's like everybody gets hyped up, kickoff, and then boom, like 5 minutes in, let's stop down for this 2nd and 5 that we need to, and just I hate the reviews. I mean, I definitely feel like they have a place, but I think that they go to the well too often sometimes. The biggest thing for me is I don't have a big gripe about the officiating or anything like that. I haven't given it any thought, honestly, this entire offseason. But now thinking about it again, I do feel like you've got this conference as officials, so this will be this. Like that shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be like, well, we got these officials and they're different from these officials. It's like, no, every official should call the game the exact same way. Like I think there should be a uniformity,
like the NFL.
Like the NFL. And as we go more professional, then why not do that as well? And I'm not trying to make this NFL light, but I'm also not in charge and driving the boat, so it's too late for all that. So if we're going to go that direction, might as well do all the stuff they do that makes sense, like having uniform officials. Now, I don't know how complicated that gets with people being all over the country and everything like that, but it is weird. Like, oh, we got a pack crew. Like, what does that mean? You got a pack crew? Why would they call a game any differently than a Big Ten crew?
You could still staff people regionally, but they would all have the same standards. Like there shouldn't be questions over points of emphasis in different conferences.
How does a different crew call a different targeting? Week to week.
Like those kind of things. Like that shouldn't be the thing. And in Vanini's column here, one of the things that he points out that he talked to Dean Blandino, who obviously is one of the Fox, officiating guys and is the head of officials in the UFL, and they do their replay. He makes a great point that part of it is the lack of transparency. So like fans, especially when you get a replay wrong, or what happens with Georgia and Texas last year, where the officials got together in that particular instance, and the guy who made the call said, hey, I messed that up. Like as soon as he threw the flag, he knew he messed it up. And so they called it and they did the review and all of that. But it makes it look a different way
that was a nightmare,
than it was, because it makes it look like, hey, the Texas fans throwing beer cans on the field made it look like that influenced the call.
Yeah.
Well, if there's transparency like in the UFL, and I'm not sure how many people watch a UFL game. I've watched plenty of them. The way that they do their reviews is pretty fast. They go up to the booth. They're both talking to each other. Everyone knows what they're talking about. It's not a secret. And the replay official up there says, okay, we do have pass interference. So that means it'll be 1st and 10 at the 17-yard line. And it was on number 31. Done. Boom. Spot the ball and go. Everybody knows, and there's not this whole, like, you invent these conspiracy theories in your head because you see everything, because there's no reason for it to be secretive now that the technology exists. The only reason it was secretive before that we know is they didn't have the technology for everybody to, be in on this.
Dean Blandino, who's been a part of the NFL and, of course, a head of officiating and now an analyst on TV games, he said that the instant replay and review was never designed to be a get everything right system. We've migrated so far away from that it is every single inch of the game that now is reviewed, because so much, of course, is television coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I have more of a problem with that than anything. I know all officials go through the same basic training, but then it's definitely one of the damning quotes in there was a SEC head coach who said, where was that? Let's see here. He had a comment about the league versus the Big 12, and
at the basketball officials?
Yeah, no, I know exactly where to go here. I just have to type the right word in. Some coach anonymously, the SEC guys hear more S, so they don't get worked up over dumb S. In the Big 12, I thought I was playing a game on my kid's church league basketball team. So, they all have the same basic training, but then they go off and they separate, and they have their own grading systems within conferences and everything. But, yeah, you got one side, you got the Big 12 crew that's treating it like, well, did you just say the F word? And then you got the SEC crew who's like, F-bombs are flying everywhere, and it's the same as using and or the or whatever.
Yeah.
I just think that those kind of differences, shouldn't really be the case. But ultimately, yeah, the total reliance on making everything perfect by way of video review is definitely the most annoying aspect of college officiating right now. Not even close.
Turnovers and scoring.
I mean, like I was saying, I mean, I can guarantee the first week of the season, we're going to be over there, and it's like 15 minutes into the game, it's going to be, boop, we got a review, 0-0, balls like at midfield. It's nothing crazy, but instead of just making the call, they're going to, they go to the review booth and make sure they get that offsides, whatever. It's too much review. Yeah.
I remember one time, and I'm not joking, this hasn't happened. Maybe it's never happened since then, but it was a review when the runner, whoever it was, picked up a first down, but they went to the replay to find out if he was marked 2 yards ahead of where he went out of bounds. It was a first down. He got the first down. Maybe they would have been 2 yards off, but it was not a game-deciding moment. The 2 yards, they moved the ball back a couple of yards, and he still had the first down. The part that I say, in technology today, no one can convince me otherwise. And I've had people contact me during football season on Twitter with this. There is no reason why the screen or the replay, the official has to go to it. The guy upstairs does it. Relays down, as you mentioned, Paul. Quick, bang, bang, just like that. And it's always the replay screen that the official goes to, the referee, is always on the complete opposite side, 50, 60 yards down from where they are. There's no reason to do all that. And the play's made, they go to a TV timeout, and then they'll call the replay. And it's another way that they delay the game.
Like, here's the thing. The technology exists where you don't have to go get a headset. He can be wearing a wireless headset literally the entire time. And he could just
What'd you say, Bob?
Okay. And be like, hey, Bob, what do we got? All right, 17-yard line. All right, there we go. Okay, thanks, Bob.
First down.
The difference is you don't have a command center like in the NFL where there's a team of people.
Actually, they do. Big 12, ACC all have command
do that now. It's not.
The ACC has a command center.
To watch 15 games or 10 games at one time?
Okay, that's where the replays come from.
Yeah, it's at least it may not be as completely focused on, but you're right. In the NFL, there's usually, 5 to 7 games going on at once, and that's about it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess I don't know that I didn't know that, and maybe I just blocked that out of my memory, but I think more or less I'm confused by if you have that, why a guy needs to run over to the camera, and it's never 10 seconds. It's always 3 full minutes at least. It's always the exact length of the commercial break somehow magically where he's just staring at this screen. I'm in the press box watching on a fuzzy TV that's got like white lines rolling across it. I can see what the penalty was in 2 seconds, but he needs 3 minutes with the team behind him with their setup to figure out what was obvious to me 30 seconds on a fuzzy TV. That's the part that doesn't make any sense. And I get wanting to make sure you're right, but it's like I know my own eyes. I know how right I am, and it took me 15, 30 seconds to figure it out. It should not take a whole team of people and command centers with all of these to take 3-5 minutes, whatever it is, on something so simple. So, yeah, that part definitely annoys me and just drags out
and it's
these ever lengthening games because of TV commercials.
And sometimes, as you said, you could have taken a commercial break after a timeout, and then they come back after the break and now say there's a replay. Do that during the break and then come back. By the way, we had a review. Also, Paul, you said this war chant, Florida State, the Florida Board of Governors passed an amendment to allow Florida State and other state schools, which would include Florida, UCF, USF, to get a direct $22.5 million auxiliary fee for athletics.
Yeah, so this comes from the university fund, which usually has been off limits to athletics. And I'm not surprised to see this happen really quickly, especially given the fact that, 3 of those 4, those are the 4 biggest state universities, USF, FSU, UCF, and UF. Well, 3 of the 4 of them, we're going to have real questions about how do we get to $20.5 million, and fully fund this. Well, now those other 3 don't have to worry about it because they can have $22.5 million directly into athletics. And so they can take part of that for some things and part of it for something else. So if you knew that you could get to 14, but you needed 8 more, you're going to get 22.5. So you need that 8. You can use the other 14 or whatever. And this goes till 2028, which by then, obviously we'll probably see some new television agreements starting to maybe pop up a little bit. So yeah, that gets them at least for the first 4 years of it to where they can do their full share and not have to figure out do we have to shortchange it a little bit more compared to conference rivals or regional rivals, and it, just in Florida State's particular instance, in UCF, you're not just talking about, the people in your conference, you're talking about those people around you like Alabama and Georgia who come down into your state, or you guys are recruiting the same kids every single day.
Hey, so congratulations, all you regular students at these schools. You're going to now pay more money than ever so that the football player who already gets everything for free now gets even more of your money. So awesome.
And yeah, you're paying to go to university to get an education and also your student fee to go to athletic events.
Yeah, now it's all going to be more expensive because they're going to charge the students more money to pay for the athletes who are already on full scholarship with free room and board and free food and free everything else. Now they're going to hit the students up for that. So that's the part where I just kind of side-eye this, and I I get it, man. Football's king, especially in the South and the Southeast. So it's no surprise, really. But that's where the money's coming from. Is going to be the regular students who are already getting pinched as it is. And it's a model that's just asking for a whole hell of a lot, man. And it's never stops asking for more and more and more. Yeah. I just don't know how feasible that is everywhere, but we'll see.
Coastal Carolina up 8-3 in the 6th inning against Louisville. And trying to move. They haven't lost yet. That Louisville has to win to play another game. Also tonight, you'll have Arkansas, LSU. Arkansas must beat LSU to force what would be another game. Later in the show, our King Jiu-Jitsu, Andrew Valade and Emery Winter describe WNBA catfights and maybe the form that the tall drink of water Sophie Cunningham used in grabbing the head of some poor girl who was trying to be a thug. We'll get to that and more. We do have Cody Nagel. He's about to join us next. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be, providing unique services dedicated to men, which allows quick appointments, 24/7 access with Dr. Petty at his office, virtual telemedicine visits, phone visits, secure text, and or email. Dr. Petty available to discuss exciting new wave of men's comprehensive health care with you in greater detail, currently offering men an initial free courtesy consultation and also finding out if, in fact, you have an issue with your testosterone. He will set up, or his business will set up, an appointment. Set that up. You go to give your blood. Dr. Petty gets the results, and if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase that for you. There is lab screening, 90% discounts on all the lab screening and testing. Dr. Petty, I remember when he first opened his doors, it was about, I think, maybe a decade or so ago, and he is thriving, and so are men. PettyClinicLowT.com.
Employee Pricing Plus is back at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are insane. Get a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab. Your choice, 1.9 for 72 months, or $12,000 off and 3.9 for 72 months, or a flat-out $16,000 off MSRP. Wow! Ford, GM, or Toyota owner, take $1,500 more off only at Allen Samuels.
Come by, let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Last call for Employee Pricing Plus at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a beast of a truck with a Ram 1-ton 4x4 Cummins diesel for just $52,995. Or go off-road with the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon and save $15,000 off MSRP. Only 2 left. Prefer an SUV? Get a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee for $10,000 off MSRP. Even better, a 2025 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 for just $26,700. Visit Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Cody Nagel, CBS Sports, the story from Michael Penix to Jared Verse. College football's 10 most impactful transfers of the portal era. And he joins us with his list and also his knowledge. Cody, thank you very much for your time with Craig David and also Paul, 365 Sports. How long did you compile, like go through all the lists and like have 80 people, then try to get it down to 9? How did you do this?
Yeah, this is something I worked on. I think I did kind of a first version last year with 24/7 Sports, actually. And we kind of fixed it a little bit because we had included before. We had Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts in there, and we figured, they were technically pre-transfer portal era, but they kind of were in that, they transferred right before it became official and were playing, while it was going on. But we eliminated them and tried to get it to where it was just guys that had transferred after that. I believe it was October 2018 when it officially started. But yeah, it definitely took a lot of time and a lot of thought, and it's a pretty subjective list. I mean, there's so many arguments you can make for guys, even ones that aren't in the list that I've got. But yeah, it was pretty fun to go through, and you kind of come across some names that you kind of forget that they were transfers just because, once they got to their new schools, just the impact that they had.
Who just missed it?
I think the obvious one's got to be Cam Ward, and I'm probably going to catch a lot of heat for, not including him. I would say he was probably 10.5, and you could, I would certainly listen to an argument that he should be included in the top 5 too. But I think the fact that for everything that he did accomplish offensively, and I know a lot of this has to do with the defense that he had no part in, but to not make the ACC title game and not make the playoff, it's kind of hard to say, okay, his impact on this program was massive because they ultimately didn't get to where they wanted to go.
How much debate was there around Michael Penix as the top choice there at number 1?
Yeah, that was definitely the big debate. And, I think just because, I know Washington had success before, before Kalen DeBoer got there. Chris Peterson obviously took them to the playoff before when it was the 4-team format. But I think just how that program was offensively when Penix was at quarterback. He was always at the top of, passing stats for nationally, only losing, 3 games or so during his 2 years there. To get Washington to the national championship game, without him, they don't do that. I can't even remember who their backup quarterback would have been, but he fought through. Remember the national championship game? He was basically hobbling off the field every time the offense would come off the field just because his ribs were hurt. And so yeah, I think that's kind of why we went with that. And I know that's probably an unpopular opinion, but that was ultimately who we settled on.
Quarterbacks on this list: Penix, Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels. So 4 of them, but I like it the way it's mixed up a little bit. How much did you put into, Paul, what was it, Jordan Travis at Florida State, who actually a lot of people forget that he transferred to Florida State?
Yeah, that's probably another one that's right on that, that cut line that probably could be included, but ultimately didn't make it. Yeah, I mean, he was having a Heisman Trophy season before that injury. I think that's probably why we didn't include him, just because he ultimately didn't finish out. And I know he had, the season before that, or that season before that too. But yeah, I think that the injury and not being able to kind of finish that off was kind of why we leaned against not including him.
Cody Nagel with us on the highest impact or most impactful college football transfers during the actual official start of what was the transfer portal era in 2018.
When you get into, did you like kind of look at some of the inverse too of like some of the bigger name guys that didn't pan out? Like when you get into these things, it's kind of like opposition research, I guess, Cody. Like, okay, let's because you got to compare. Let's compare, Jared Verse to another defensive end that was more highly touted that hit the wall.
Yeah, obviously you're going to go through and see kind of where we had or where 24/7 Sports had some of the guys ranked and kind of how they outperformed. I would say for the most part, if I had to look back real quick, but that most of these guys were probably expected to be impact transfers or were rated pretty high. I can't think of one on here that was probably a guy that came out of nowhere. Maybe Jared Verse, if I can remember correctly where he ranked, but a guy coming from an FCS school probably wasn't really on too many people's radar, but ultimately makes the list and probably played a big impact on Florida State being in the mix for that playoff there and winning the ACC title. So yeah, I mean we looked back on how these guys compared to certain positions too.
I'm just sitting here trying to remember what it was like pre-transfer portal. Like I kind of remember, but man, it's just made things so much more interesting, hasn't it, over the last few years? I mean, there's definitely been for some worse scenarios, but I think ultimately, despite all the sky is falling rhetoric and everything, I mean, damn, it's added some spice to this whole thing every year, has it not?
Yeah, for sure. And like Jared Verse, I mean, without the transfer portal, maybe he doesn't, get to Florida State and, maybe it's not as easy for him to, or maybe he's got to sit out a year or something like that. Or, maybe it's not as easy for a guy like Michael Penix Jr. to, transfer to Washington and reunite with Kalen DeBoer, who was his offensive coordinator at Indiana. There's just a lot of those success stories that are out there. And then there's obviously the other end where guys move and it doesn't work out. And, then they're kind of forgotten about a little bit because they didn't pan out.
I love the fact you had Olawati Tini, from Michigan, who was at a couple of schools, Air Force and then Virginia, to make sure there's an offensive lineman on this list. And Mac, I didn't really know much about him when he transferred to Michigan. And then when they had that great run, he was solid, Cody, as a rock as an offensive lineman. And now I think starting with Seattle in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he's with Seattle. Yeah. But yeah, just for a guy to come over and be that anchor, even if it was for just one season, they win the Big Ten, they go to the playoff. Was that the year they lost to Miami, or not Miami? Excuse me. They lost in Miami to Georgia, I think. But yeah, just to come over and be that anchor at center, and walks away with the Outland Trophy and the Remington Trophy, and I'm pretty sure he's the only guy in program history to win both of those. So yeah, that was important for us to include some sort of offensive lineman or guy that made an impact like that.
Kenneth Walker at number 3. I remember when I was scrolling through the article, I was like, well, I mean, he was really good. And then like when I read your justification for it, literally got $95 million for Mel Tucker, which I don't know if anybody else on the list can say that they did that. Well, maybe a couple, but like really did that for a coach that, quickly showed that sans Kenneth Walker, he wasn't maybe as good as he wasn't worth that $95 million.
Yeah, I think his value is one that's definitely increased. If you would have made this list, 2 years ago, when they're coming off that season or whatever, he's probably not that high up there. But the further you get along, and with how that whole Mel Tucker era ended, and Michigan State still struggling with trying to get back to how they were before. I think it made pretty good argument to put him pretty high up on the list.
Jaden Daniels, We have fun. LSU, obviously a great player now after 1 year with Washington in the NFL. And the fact that Arizona State had him at one point, it is incredible the number of really good players, not just because they transferred, but how good they were. Who on this list do you think is the most underrated of the 10 that you have in your top 10?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say probably Jaden Daniels or Travis Hunter. I mean, I just think you can't put, a value on how much of an impact Travis Hunter had for Colorado and playing both sides. His impact on offense was tremendous. His impact on defense was tremendous. It's just kind of mind-boggling to think, a player can play that many snaps, also at altitude. I mean, you think Boulder's up there in altitude that, it's going to impact a guy like that. So, he's probably one that I would have liked to have a little bit higher up. But there's the guys you have ahead of him, or the guys that I had ahead of him, Caleb Williams, Caleb Downs, Kenneth Walker, Justin Fields, and Penix. I mean, it's pretty hard to argue that he should be against those or be above those two. So, it was definitely a difficult list to put together.
I know this would be impossible off the top of your head, or maybe it's not. When you started going down the list of all of the candidates, and again, there's a bunch of them, dozens probably, to get down to 10, was there a name that popped up that you went, damn, I forgot about him?
I mean, Olu was definitely one of them that came up, just because you're not really always thinking about offensive linemen. The names that come to mind are all the quarterbacks. I mean, Jamison Williams, that was one that I kind of forgot about too. The wide receiver from Alabama. They probably win that national title if he doesn't get hurt. I believe it was in like the second quarter. And then, I think it was Georgia that made the comeback there. But so, that's one that, I wasn't really thinking off the top of my head as I'm going through it.
Cody, thank you very much for your time, man. Good stuff. Cody Nagel, 247 CBS Sports, with us, 10 most impactful college football transfers of the portal era, and even some of them. And I mentioned, for example, that Olo Tini was at two schools prior to what he did at Michigan, and others that were dual type transfers, not just once, but also twice. Paul, Verse is on this list. Jordan Travis is on this list. So it's easy if I was just off the list. The favorite or best, most impactful transfer at FSU outside of these two?
Keon Coleman,
the wide receiver, Michigan State.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I could also, like anybody, Trey Benson. I mean, that whole team in 2024 was all, dudes.
23.
Oh yeah, 23. Sorry, in 23 was all dudes. Yeah, the whole team in 22 was not dudes.
Jaden Daniels is on the list. Anybody else from? And I get we think of 20 guys, but another name that pops into your head.
Let's see here. Nobody off the top that's jumping to me.
All right.
Yeah, nobody off the top.
Craig, anyone else? Oklahoma that's a transfer that had a huge impact? Yeah.
No, they've never had transfer quarterbacks that won Heisman or competed for them. So no, there's no answer for Oklahoma. Yeah, Kyler Murray. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. Baker Mayfield,
Heisman Trophy winner.
Jalen Hurts didn't win a Heisman, but was very good for OU. Had a monster year. His time there in Crimson and Cream. So yeah, I think there's those guys that immediately rip right off the top of your head when it comes to high-profile OU transfers.
All right, when we come back, Steve Cofield, sideline analyst for UNLV football, talk show host as well on the Runnin' Rebels, with also Dan Mullen in charge. And also, what is their future, not now but down the road, about UNLV and a possibility of a new landing spot if that comes later on. Mack Brown, Arizona football coach. We'll have Brent Brennan, who joined us earlier today with that interview, too, thanks to Emery Winter. And this is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. They've had a bunch of events. Summertime, it will still be very busy. For example, 4th of July just around the corner, or just enjoying the tremendous food and the amenities of being at the Baylor Club. You know, I talk about the food, the chefs, and all of what they have, and that's a huge deal. The events that they host, and they do a bunch of them. It is always busy. But sometimes it's a great place to sit down and just enjoy lunch or dinner or a business meeting. They even have cubicles that are off to the side when you come up the dual part of the second floor, I think it is, of the escalator. And they have some cubicles where if you want to sit down, maybe it's a sales proposal, maybe it's something like an insurance policy or whatever it might be that you're trying to either buy or sell. They have room for you there for just something quiet for you to enjoy where you are, but also try to do your business too. It's the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium. Memberships available, and tell them 365 Sports sent you.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
All right, come back. I got it.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
365 Sports, this 4 o'clock hour. Mack Brown in an hour will join us. Also, Arizona's Brent Brennan will be at the bottom of this hour. That is Steve Cofield, UNLV sideline analyst, also on radio, ESPN radio in the Las Vegas area, where we had a couple of great trips recently, Super Bowl and Big 12 Media Day. Steve, thank you very much for your time. I know that with Dan Mullen there, people are excited, but how much initially when Barry Odom left was it a disappointment?
Oh, I think it was a disappointment for a little bit, but there's a reality that he was doing such a good job that someone real big could come along. And then once we found out the salary in the area, I mean, there were some people who were bitter, but he couldn't turn it down. He was making a $1.75 million. He got boosted to $6 million a year. I don't know what the buyout is early. It might be $30 million total. I think he's got a 6-year, $36 million deal. So UNLV fans kind of realize where they are in terms of funding. But I will tell you the latest update with Dan Mullen is, one, they cobbled together enough money to double what they're paying to Barry Odom. And from what I hear, Dan Mullen's come in and he's done a lot of fundraising. So it doesn't mean Dan Mullen's going to stay here for 5 years, but until we get more clarity on what UNLV football is and where it's going to land in terms of a conference, they're kind of in that spot where they can only pay so much. So Barry Odom was gonna leave at some point.
Do you think that the Pac-12 is where most fans would want to be, or given that the Pac-12 is a new thing, do they not see much of a difference between that and where they are now?
I'd say support to go to the Pac-12. If I were, it's really just an educated guess because, you get in these kind of internet, social media bubbles, and you hear from a lot of people who are hardcore UNLV fans. So I would say maybe 60-40 support to go to the Pac-12, but I think the 40 that aren't that keen on going to the Pac-12 understand the situation, and you kind of nailed it on the back end of your question. Is the Pac-12 a gigantic step up? Does it lead in terms of a path to get into whatever the Power Four looks like automatically down the road? Is the Pac-12 going to be included back in a Power Five? I don't think so. So I think a lot of fans are kind of realistic, and those who follow it really closely understand that UNLV would be spending a lot of money to get out of the Mountain West Conference. And right now, their money situation could be really interesting depending on a lawsuit that has been waged and negotiated over between the Pac-12 and the Mountain West. The Mountain West actually kind of bent over and gave Air Force and UNLV a lot of money. That's what they're promising. Now they have to get the money from the Pac-12, but the money situation in the short term is kind of paramount because UNLV, just like a lot of schools, are spending a lot of money to keep up with the Joneses. So they're incurring debt, and this is a way to get them out of the debt. And then they hope in 4 or 5 years an invite comes from whatever the Power Four is. If it's like a big 80, if it's a big 50 with a second 50. But I think a lot of the fans realize, and I think the university realizes that if they have the money in hand from the Mountain West Conference, they'll be fine, and they can kind of make their way in a lesser Mountain West Conference and potentially still get into the CFP if they're the best group of 5 or group of 6 team.
How embraced has UNLV become locally as they've driven more resources and they're trying to make big moves? I mean, as somebody there in Las Vegas, can you explain to us outsiders that don't know any better, what does the local support look like, and how much could it be better, or is it good enough, or just kind of how do you view all of those things?
No, it needs to get a lot better from a money standpoint. I think the new donors have stepped up, so their money situation is getting better. I don't know that they're ever going to have a base here where, they can be Texas Tech and have tens of millions of dollars. And they do have billionaires here, so if they can hook one of them, maybe they could be like, what's his name, Cody Campbell. Mm-hmm. I think fan support is growing. They're in competition with the NFL. They're in competition with the Vegas Golden Knights. But last year showed some signs. I didn't think the attendance was a big enough jump for the good games. And keep in mind, they're playing at Allegiant Stadium, so the place holds 65,000 with the luxury seats. For the good games, they were getting about 32 to 42,000. I mean, could that bump up? They're hoping for more than 50,000 against UCLA in their home opener. So the support is there. But, Vegas, there's a lot of things to do, just like a lot of places. Right. You got to win. They love winners here. But if UNLV keeps winning, and I think Dan Mullen actually, I'll say this, I like Barry Odom a lot. Dan Mullen is kind of next level in terms of pitchman. He's really savvy. His TV background's really helped him out. So the energy right now going into the season, it's actually gotten kind of crazy. Hopefully the fans show up and can be, 35, 40, 45,000 a game. But they've also now got these expectations. Barry Odom did a really good job in winning, 20? Well, he won 19. They won 20 games over 2 years. Now people are like, if they don't win 9 games, it's a disappointment. Like, hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit. Have a winning season, get to a bowl game, stay in the right direction. But remember where you were about 5 years ago, where you were lucky to get the 4 or 5 wins.
Steve, there's no question Mullen's gotten given that program even more juice. As you mentioned, Odom did his job and moved on. In fact, there's some articles I read that UNLV may be one of the most intriguing teams among not just the group of 5s, but in people who are trying to, at some point, put themselves in a position to be a part of the playoff.
They've got a shot, and they had a shot last year. They just couldn't take out Boise in the most important spot of the year, and that was the Mountain West Conference title game. Now, unfortunately, they were on the road. It was cold weather. Ashton Genty was on fire, and he got stronger as the game went along. I think Boise's going to come back to the pack a little bit, but does that mean that UNLV is going to be at the same level it was last year? They had to change up most of the quarterback room. Most of their offensive line is different now. They've added, and they did this with Odom too. They turned over the roster the last 3 years, including this year, to the tune of like 51 to 55 players. That is not easy. They've gotten a lot of Power Four guys who are at their second and third and fourth stops. I think that can work out. We'll see. I think their defense is going to be pretty good. We'll see how their quarterback play is. They have a quarterback in from Michigan and Alex Orji. He's battling Anthony Calandre, who's in from Virginia. So they both have pedigree. They've got a really good running back room. I think the receiving core is going to be good. So, right now, energy's pretty high and expectations are really high as well. And I'm glad they're getting national pub. It's funny enough, I'm guessing you read the Harry Lyles Jr. story on ESPN.com. We're actually going to have him on a little later on my local show. So I'm kind of curious as to what caught his attention about UNLV. But expectations certainly are they're one of, 6, we'll say the highest odds teams to make the college football playoff.
Do you think that that with revenue sharing money, like all these different things that happen, does Vegas? I mean, giant municipalities are growing. Municipalities have never been like a hook for anybody, really. It's all about the coach. So that's why you have a guy like Dan Mullen. But does Vegas become more attractive now than maybe it has been in the past because of the ability, even though not with gambling, but to make outside money?
The funny thing is with gambling, I think there are going to be ways that casinos are going to be able to contribute more and out in the open. So that's a good thing. Vegas is, I've been here for 30 years and over the last 20, it's always felt like, and I think it's viewed as a bigger market than it is. We're probably at about 2.4, 2.5 million in I'll call it a metro area, but it's really, we don't have a metro. It's, Vegas and Henderson, North Las Vegas. But it's always felt a little bit bigger. And the thing is Major League Sports coming here. And we may have the NBA in 6 years. I mean, Major League Baseball, the groundbreaking for the A Stadium is on Monday. So the hope is that's going to be done by 2028. So there's a lot of energy, inside the market. I think outside the market that make it look like a much bigger market. And there's going to be money here. I mean, it's guys, you're in the hub of it, trying to keep up with the monies and trying to generate money. I mean, UNLV is going to be in on the rev share. It ain't going to be 20.5 million. I don't know when we're going to find out, what their total athletic budget is and what football is. They're trying, and they're trying to do it fast too, because they were so bad for so long that this is an accelerated deal. So it's hard to keep up. And then, Boise's, I think, going to try some creative ideas, even though they're going to the Pac-12. There's still a measuring stick out here. They're going to go private equity. So it's going to be the arms race in the Mountain Time Zone and the Pacific Time Zone to try to keep up and generate monies is going to be fascinating over the next 5-10 years.
If there was a Back to the Future scenario, how much, what would the reaction have been of a young Steve Cofield first moving to Las Vegas, and current Steve Cofield says, hey man, in 30 years, there's going to be a Stanley Cup winning hockey team. The A's are moving here. The Raiders are moving here. The NBA is going to have summer league here to eventually get a team. Like, what would your reaction have been back then to what's now the present for Las Vegas?
Did I think it had the potential? Yes. But we were viewed as such dirtbags by the Major League Sports Organization and by the NCAA that it looked like a very long shot. I've come across you guys a couple times, more than a few times at Super Bowls, and I can remember even feeling kind of like we were an outsider at Super Bowls in the early 2000s. I think you guys might have been next to us at the New York Super Bowl, and it was this big, long room, and I don't think they did it on purpose, but I'm like, my God, there's 140 outlets here. I can't even see the front of the room. They got Vegas all the way in the back. That was sort of the feeling. And then we had these high-profile deals where they banned stuff, they pulled stuff. But, over the years, I'll give credit to the NCAA and the people on the ground here. I think that opened it up with all the conference tournaments, and what we have now is amazing. And now we're one of the top 3 destinations for any championship game. I truly believe the Super Bowl probably should be here in a rotation, like every 4 years. There should be a major NCAA event here just about every year. I mean, you're right. Going back, I got here in August of '96. The progress in 30 years is freaking mind-boggling. And now it feels like there's no limits.
Is there a chance that Las Vegas is like what Phoenix used to be? And
potentially.
And Phoenix, I don't know. Sometimes I hear that, but like Phoenix was this cozy little kind of quiet town, and then bam! I lived there back in the late '60s only because my dad was stationed at Luke Air Force Base. But I remember Tempe and Phoenix. And that's what it exploded. It's a massive city now. Is Vegas on their track to do that?
I think we're on a track. I mean, I don't want to go too deep dive about, water issues, but I feel
no,
like at some point,
no.
You know what I mean? I feel like at some point we could just get too big for what we can get in terms of water. I don't think we'll ever be as big as Phoenix. Phoenix, for people who haven't been there, and you said you live there, it's incredible. Like I don't even know how to go from, if you went diagonally either direction, you're like, I don't even know how long it would take. Vegas is still relatively cozy, but here's the thing: once you get out of what you think Vegas is, there is a lot of desert and a lot of flat land, and I think they could build on a lot of it. If you know Vegas, on the way to California is a couple of cities, Jean and Prim. I think eventually, might be 25 years from now, there's going to be a pretty decent population of people who live out there. So yeah, it has the potential. As I said earlier, it's never going to have this, metro area of like 8 million, but could it be a city in the desert that has a population of 3.5 or 4 million? Probably. And listen, if we have 4 major league sports here on the ground and we can support it and people are going out and the tourists, that's the biggest thing. We need the tourists to come for all these games. And tourism is still strong 20 years from now. And sky's the limit.
It is great. We had such a good time. We were there for Big 12 Media Days about a year ago. We were there for the Super Bowl before that. I'm so happy for what Vegas has got now. And especially, I was going to ask it. Craig brought it up and Paul. But, I mean, the change in the last 8 to 10 years and what's happened there. You've been there for 30, so you've seen it from the ground up.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I mean, even as an example of just doing a sports talk radio show here, the show has changed immensely because I was doing some national radio really early in my career, and I was like, oh, cool. Well, we're in Vegas. We'll stay here and do national radio, which I'm comfortable with. And we did a lot of national radio. And then we had, some local topics. But a lot of the local topics we used to talk about, guys, even like 10 years ago on a day-to-day basis, I'm like, crap, can I squeeze this in? There's just so much going on. And then when you have an NFL team, you have to talk NFL almost every day. NFL has to be king. I love college football. Yeah, it's the change over the years and what we used to cover and do here from a media standpoint. The fact that today I reached out to the A's PR firm, and it's like I'm going to go to another groundbreaking, and it used to be big groundbreakings for hotels, but now you're breaking ground for a baseball stadium, and then we're talking about where's the arena going to go, and 3 different options for the NBA, and new casinos are coming. Are they going to have different venues? I mean. This place has gotten so crazy in terms of what it can host. I can't even keep a count of how many arenas we have that will hold like 9,000 or more. Then short of that, how many buildings we have that hold 5,000 or more. It's incredible. And, and you can see we're diversifying what we are. It's not all gambling anymore. And there's regular life away from the strip. And we just, the events just don't stop. And there's something going on pretty much every weekend here.
Yep.
You personally, like, what do you think about I'm curious about residents and the A's. Like when I was there before talking to Q about it, obviously Q's excited about it because he's an A's fan. But he kind of told me that everybody was kind of split on it, where they're like, all right, I guess.
Well, I think people are very cynical because forever, now we're getting these major league teams here. Forever, we were kind of used as that negotiating pawn. Mm-hmm. And there's also the complication of John Fisher's not a great owner. The A's aren't a winning organization, and I'll admit it right out. I mean, I think this is a pretty good sports town, but it is a front-running town. Whatever the hot team is, whatever the winning team is, that's what people are going to show up for. So when the A's get here, it's going to be a cool novelty for 3 or 4 years. Tourists will come here, but they're going to need locals to go out there. But that said, I think there are a lot of transplants who are baseball fans, and they have their own teams. And listen, I'm a Yankees fan. I grew up in New Jersey, but I respect what the A's have been up until this Fisher era of like the last 10 years. So I don't have any problem, kind of backing the A's and hoping they do well. And we cover the A's. We're trying to cover them more and more. But right now they're kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's a weird deal. I think they should have just moved here and built the excitement for 4 years at our minor league park instead of landing in Sacramento, where it seems like Sacktown already is like, please leave. We don't like you. We just feel like you're a stopping off point. So I think baseball will do well here. And I'll say the other thing, we need it. Tourism is changing. Like right now with the economy, we're slowing down a little bit. So I think the summer is going to be a little slower. It would be cool to have whatever the dates would be for, May, June, July, and August. If we're talking about, 35 or 40 home dates, that would be gigantic, especially on weekdays. So we need it from an economy standpoint. And I think people will support it. I'm stoked. I'm a big baseball fan. My biggest thing is make sure you give me a team and an owner that's going to try to compete. If you don't win, that's one thing. But if you're going to be at the bottom of baseball and then cry poor, you can't do that once you come to Vegas. And we're going to wind up giving them, like, with the road work, over $500 million. We're making an investment in the team. You can't turn around and not spend money on the team. You got to be good.
Yeah, you don't want to. It's not a small market team that has sometimes that written excuse or that excuse because they don't have the budget. Because you got money. Huh? So Raiders 1, Golden Knights 2. what is 3 when it comes to the importance in Vegas for sports fans? UNLV basketball or what?
No.
Okay.
UNLV football is ahead of UNLV basketball. UNLV basketball just hired a new coach too, and Josh Pastner, who was at Memphis and Georgia Tech and has Arizona roots. No, they're the ones who've really fallen victim to the Golden Knights, being so good so early. UNLV basketball last year was starting to draw like 4,000, and that's Tark's building. That place holds like 17,500, so they got to bounce back. But I'll tell you this: if they win, I think people will come back and they will love basketball again. It's hard to name. The thing is, the Raiders are so far ahead of everything because it's NFL. Even if they don't have a ton of fans on the ground, it's just so gigantic. Then you're right. I think it is VGK. And then there's a good debate. I mean, but like way behind would be UNLV football, the Las Vegas Aces, although they're not very good right now, UNLV. And then, in competition with that is all the big events we bring to town. I would have said for a long time, I think it's plateauing a little bit. We know where boxing is right now. But UFC was one of our kind of local teams. The design of that whole thing has changed a little bit, but there's still room. And there's still good competition for who's going to be number 3 behind hockey. And I think NBA will come here and kill it, but certainly behind the Raiders.
I know you've got a show to get ready for. If you were a visitor to Vegas, where would you stay? What hotel? We got an Airbnb the times we were there, not that far. Was it in Henderson? No, I think it was. Where would you stay?
Enterprise, yeah.
Where would you stay, and where would be what restaurant would you eat as far as a steak or a big seafood dinner?
So, because I'm local, I prefer when I do staycations to stay downtown. Now, if you haven't been to Vegas a bunch, you gotta stay on the Las Vegas Strip.
Sure.
So I understand that there's good properties up on the Strip. I'd probably try to stay at some of the newer places. Believe it or not, some of the older places need a little updating. But I really like downtown. And I'll admit we do business with a lot of places downtown, like Circa, and I like the Plaza and Downtown Grand. They're all new rooms. Now, for dinner, though, if I was really going to treat myself, I would go up on the Strip, and there's some awesome steak places. My few experiences, and I really enjoyed it because I got treated, were at a Craft Steak, which is Tom Colicchio's restaurant. I also like him because he's top chef guy and all that.
Sure.
That's a place I would recommend. It's like one of the great feasts in town, especially if you get a package for the whole table where everyone's getting some kind of sampling. I thought that place was awesome. But come on, you can't go wrong. There's probably 20, 30 places. And then I could name so many local places. We have everything here. I mean, our food variety is so deep. I love Asian food. There's Asian food everywhere here. So it's a great food city.
Thank you, buddy. Steve, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Steve
Cofield,
UNLV sideline analyst, talk show host in Las Vegas. Paul, where was the Italian place that I got hit with a $1,400 bill that we went to?
You did not get it. It was not $1,400.
It was nearly, yes.
Was that the place Barry Odom recommended to us? Yeah, that was. Yeah.
I should have gotten him to take care of that damn bill. We'll get him on again when we get Purdue on.
What did you? I got chicken parm. There's no way.
No. You bought 2 bottles of wine.
I didn't buy. I had a glass of wine.
I think you bought a bottle.
No, I did have.
It was literally.
I
did write that baby off though.
By the way,
still owed money to the IRS.
Would you like to hear some breaking sports business news?
Sure.
The Lakers have been sold. Jeannie Buss will still be the governor of the team, but CEO of Diversified Holding Company TWG Global, Mark Walter, will now be the majority owner. And,
is he from LA?
Yeah, he owns
the Dodgers.
Yeah, he owns the Dodgers.
Okay,
so,
I did not know that.
The Dodgers, the Sparks, all that stuff. So, yes, he owns the Dodgers. At least he's a good sports owner. So poor Luka Doncic doesn't have the same exact thing happen to him that he did in Dallas.
My baby boy, my sweet baby boy. No, he's probably off on a bender in the Mediterranean right now. And I don't blame him. It's the off season, but I think this is a guy who's obviously had a lot of success with the Dodgers. I don't know about his whole portfolio, but that immediately pops out as the big thing on his resume. And, you start talking about all these funds and FGB Global or whatever the hell you just said. Like, he's got a lot of damn money. Yeah. That's all that means to me. And so successful with the Dodgers. You hope he'll be as successful with the Lakers. So I think it's an exciting day. Obviously, the end of an era with the Buss family. They're still going to be involved behind the scenes, and I'm sure in front of the scenes as well. But as far as being the majority owners, this is the end of an era for the Los Angeles Lakers. But I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that it'll be a bright future because of, look at the Dodgers, man. That's they've been rolling these last few years. So I think you're excited about that, even though for some it'll probably be bittersweet just because you've known something to be a certain way for so long. But I don't think the Buss family is going to be totally uninvolved based on the initial reporting.
Isn't that part of a Netflix series, the Lakers and Jenny Buss? Isn't that?
They spoofed it. Yeah. It's very good.
Yeah,
it's called Running Point. It's very funny.
I was curious. Is Magic still a part of the Dodgers ownership?
Oh yeah,
I never thought. And now of course with Washington in the NFL. All right, interesting. The Dodgers and now in the Lakers owned by that same group.
But yeah, I would think that's good news for Luka. They got a lot of money. Believe I was reading something earlier today about how they're the type of people that really lean into analytics and things like that. I don't know who doesn't. I don't know the last time I saw somebody buy a team or get hired as a coach that doesn't lean into analytics, because it's almost like that's a part of every write-up on every one of those types of hires these days. But I guess it's not across the board, and it is notable perhaps how deep they go into it or the way that they use it. But it's been successful in baseball. They're set up really well for the future, obviously, with a not even 30-year-old superstar right there, ready to be the guy and whoever else they add over the coming years as well. So, yeah, it's a big day in L.A.
All right, so there we are with that. Garrett, let's do this. We have Brent Brennan around the corner. Let's do the Stanley Cup nuggets that I have. Do you have a couple of those?
I do have a couple of them.
All right, let's use.
By the way, you didn't mention the $10 billion.
Oh, yeah, $10 billion.
Wow.
$10 billion. So I don't know what that figure was for. I mean, granted, they're the Dodgers. They're not just some regular franchise. They have not just titles historically. They have titles modern day, like in the last few years.
Yeah, they went through that stretch from the 80s with the Hershiser and them where they went through a drought.
But they're not like the Commanders where they haven't won a title in 30 years.
The Lakers.
Oh, the Lakers. I'm sorry, the Lakers. No, yeah.
The Lakers have been sold.
Yeah, the Lakers.
No,
the Dodgers.
Well, okay, yeah. The Lakers, obviously, who we've been talking about. $10 billion, yeah. So I'm not sure what a franchise was going for of that stature that's got all those world championships. But, yeah, I see where I got confused now. But, yeah, the Lakers obviously have some modern-day titles. It's been a little bit of a drought. What was the last one? The COVID year with LeBron? Was that the last title, I believe, for them? So they're looking at 5-year run without a championship. But, yeah, man, they're still the most relevant franchise, not named the Celtics by far, and they still might be above the Celtics depending on who you ask. So I think it's going to be a fun investment to watch grow, unless you don't like the Lakers. And then, but $10 billion, I would imagine that is, in fact, it says a record deal. So
they turned a profit. Dr. Jerry Buss bought the team for $67.5 million from Smokey, who?
Jack Kent Cook.
Jack Kent Cook.
Who eventually also owned the Washington Redskins during their glory years.
Yes. So he bought it from Jack Kent Cook for $67.5 million. That included the Forum when he bought it.
Such a cool
So
place.
the Forum was worth way more than the Lakers were at the time. So they've turned a profit. Yeah.
He bought the Kings as well.
Yeah, the Kings. And so the Forum and the Lakers and the Kings together weren't worth probably half of the Forum. They were almost essentially throw-ins on that deal.
He got the Lakers, the Kings, and the Forum for $67.5 million. Today, they're selling the Lakers for $10 billion.
Yeah, that is nuts. And I would think that the Forum, when it comes to basketball, you have the Boston Garden back in the day, Madison Square Garden, but that is no doubt a part of the conversation of the great basketball venues in all of those sports, especially when it comes to the NBA.
So the Celtics were the last team to be sold not that long ago. They were for $6 billion. So that's the most common
and when was
comparison.
That,
that was what, a couple years ago? Yeah.
Okay.
So that was $6 billion. So now you're looking at a couple years later, $10 billion.
And where would the Cowboys be if they were sold today? If the Lakers are at 10, Washington, the NFL franchise, was huge.
That was just Washington had the record when Josh Harris bought them, and then the Celtics eclipsed that by like I guess that would have been $500 million.
Mm-hmm.
They eclipsed that, so then the Celtics were the highest price, but now here we are a couple years later, and the Lakers are already like $4 billion more dollars. So where would the Cowboys be? That's a great question.
Yeah, here's what I'll do.
It'd be more.
We'll find out. Jerry, I triple dog dare you.
Yeah.
To find out. You don't want to be not the most valuable, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Would they be above $10 billion?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah. I think so. I just think that I do. Even with the frustrations when they've won.
Hey, I'll tell you this.
But they haven't won it all in
if
31 years,
if
right?
Jerry and that family just decided we hate this all of a sudden, and it wasn't their entire personality, which is why the Jones family will never sell it. If they just decided that they hated it and wanted to sell it, there would be 20 buyers in a half an hour.
Yeah,
because that's how valuable it is.
Yeah. I'm sure they would bust right through that. I just wonder like how much higher it would go if you're already talking about a jump from just a couple years ago, $4 billion. And the Celtics and Lakers, again, as common as you can have as far as a comparison. We're not talking like the Padres went for this amount and then the Yankees go for this amount. We're talking about the two greatest franchises have been sold in recent times, and there's a $4 billion difference now. I know the world's different from when the Celtics were sold, even though it wasn't that long ago. But, yeah, the Cowboys number would be something. I just don't know where I'll ever see it.
I would say between 12 and 15 million if it happened today. But you're right, billion. But I don't know, like you said, we'll ever see it. All right, Mr. Hockey Puckhead. Go ahead, Garrett.
So you got this up here.
Florida, the Panthers go back-to-back, and they thumped Edmonton. And yet again, another year, Canada hockey franchise is not yet won the title, which has got to be even more frustrating for them because the state of Florida has now won 4 of the last 6 Stanley Cup. Tampa Bay, the Lightning, and Florida each with a couple.
Yeah, it's, in a place that ice does not last. Like they have it once a year for about 45 minutes. Like it'll freeze overnight at 30 degrees, and then in the morning when the sun comes up, it melts.
Where?
Like in Florida, where they have a time, they'll have a
snowed in
freeze.
Destin or something crazy.
Yeah, they'll have a freeze. And especially not in Tampa or Miami, It never happens there. The air conditioning bill on a hockey facility, it's got to be 10 times as much as it is anywhere else, in the north. So, yeah, that's got to be pretty frustrating.
All right, here's another note in hockey. This is from Chris Vanini. We've mentioned him a lot on cue. So he had written down this quote after the game ended and Florida won it all. Tomorrow is one of the fun sports days of the year. You find out everyone in the Stanley Cup final was playing with a torn ACL, a broken elbow for weeks, etc. And this came down. He goes on cue. Matthew Tkachuk says he tore his adductor off the bone and had a hernia while playing in the finals for Florida.
Is that from when Evander Kane was trying to cheap shot him at the end of the game? No.
Honestly, I think this injury occurred during the Four Nations because he got hurt in the Four Nations and then he had to sit out the remainder. I think it was like the last couple of games the U.S. played.
Really?
And then he came back in. So that's when I think this happened first.
Yeah, I mean, hockey guys are known for their incredible toughness. But, all worth it, obviously. They did hoist the cup last night. So, Florida, it was interesting there. Like that first game went Edmonton's way. Looked like it would maybe be more of a series than people anticipated. But I saw, who was it? Like Kenny Albert or somebody was on, I think it was Dan Patrick's show. I saw a clip from it earlier today, and he called it the sweepiest non-sweep possible because even though Edmonton won, was it 2 games?
Yeah, they got the first one in Edmonton, and they stole one in Florida. I think they stole the first game in Florida.
Yeah, so even though they got a couple wins, it still felt like it was Florida sweeping them and just beating their ass the whole time. Like it didn't feel as though it was a 6-game series. It felt like it was all Panthers, even though somehow the Oilers won too. So yeah, that's what he called it, like the sweepiest non-sweep in a series. And so yeah, Florida's really damn good.
3 years in a row they've been in the finals, and they finally, after losing 3 years ago, they won their back-to-back.
Yeah, and I don't know what this means big picture or anything other than they're just a really good hockey team and they were the better team, and the other team had a couple of superstars, including the best player in the world, but not enough of the rest of the team to counteract what Florida had. So, yeah, that was pretty damn convincing, and no doubt left about who the best team in the NHL was this year.
That Brad Marchand trade really worked out for them.
And
then getting a hat trick and that guy.
Who scored? Did someone score 4?
Sam Reinhart.
Yeah, Sam Reinhart scored 4.
Two of them were empty netters at the very end. Yeah. But still,
Sam Reinhart will never have a night like that, and he's a really good hockey player. He'll never have a night like that in any aspect of his life.
No.
I mean, that is the night.
You don't know. Maybe he just runs. Runs one night.
I promise you that last night, like every other night, he will compare it to that. Like a lot of great things can happen to him. But
no, that was insane.
He could have like his kid will be like, "What's the greatest day of your life?" He's like, "Sorry, not you."
Yeah.
I mean, I love you, but no.
Wayne Huizenga, remember that? He was one of those that brought a lot of professional sports to the state of Florida. And they went a couple of decades in between finally getting back in the playoffs from, I think, 96 to 2020. And then now they've been to 3 straight finals and 1 back-to-back. Garrett, if I would have asked you, we get into hockey, especially when they get the Stanley Cup. Of course, the Stars, we got some. Where would they have been on your pick of repeating or in, okay, these 4 teams are gonna win the title?
I mean, they were at the top because they were one of the best teams all year. I think going into it, I had the final or the best 4 teams going into the playoffs, in my opinion, were Dallas, Winnipeg, Florida, and Edmonton.
Okay.
Winnipeg ultimately choked, and the same thing with Dallas. But no, I mean, it was really after the first series of games played out in the playoff there, they were on a collision course to see a repeat. And I'm not surprised that it went the way it did. I think when this matchup got aligned, I said it would be Florida in 7, and I didn't think that Edmonton would even get a dub there on the road. But no, it was fun. Everything went as according to plan if you're a Florida fan. Now it's just a matter of what does your roster look like next year? I know there's negotiations about Sam Bennett. To me, you got to keep him. He's like the heart and soul of your team. But it's going to be interesting to see how they address the things in the offseason.
Yeah, Edmonton again, McDavid close, but no cigar, literally. Yep. And so congratulations to the Florida Panthers.
Sorry, Canada.
How many years now?
The Americans are just too good. No, I mean it's the team's
Early
made 90s?
up
of Canadians and Russians and Serbs and everybody else. So I'm not going to go all that. But yeah, I know for Canada, the folks that care about that sort of thing, we're looking at 32 years since the last Stanley Cup for them.
That's the thing that stings. It's not that there's not huge hockey fans in Florida and that are fans of those teams, but like the last time that Canada won, those teams didn't exist. And I think that stings the most. It's like, oh, now none of the teams in Canada are winning because we decided to expand this thing out. And now it's in places that until the NHL went there, no kids grew up playing hockey.
Yep.
When I first moved to Florida, it was right when the Lightning were announced.
The Vegas Golden Knights popped up, less than 10 years ago, and they already have a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
In the middle of the desert, they popped up a hockey team and won a Stanley Cup in 1/3 of the amount of time since the last time that Canada's won a Stanley Cup. That's just, that's got to be very frustrating, and even more frustrating when the dumb Americans continue to mention that at every turn possible.
Yeah, that's arrogance.
Even though most of the team's not comprised of Americans, but still, that's what we do. So.
Next year, they do this. The NCAA, like a college basketball or football championship is settled. Who's the favorite? Well, it's the same team. Houston. No, I'm kidding. Florida, Edmonton, Carolina Hurricanes, or the Colorado Avalanche, who, of course, Dallas knocked out in that first series, which was so intense. Those are the 4 right now based on Vegas as the ones that might win it next year.
Here's Florida's roster, and I know we need to go here. Finland, Canada, Sweden, Canada, Finland, Canada, Czechia, Canada, U.S., Canada, and then what
are they from in the United States, Craig?
Hold on. I want to figure out what that is. What is Augsburg? Oh, Germany. Okay. Oh, Deutschland. Okay, that's what they were going for there. From Scottsdale, Arizona, Matthew Tkachuk. And then from, I know I said one more.
You did, right after we said the other one.
Newtown, Connecticut.
All right. Paul, nobody from Baltimore on the NHL Stanley Cup champion. You didn't expect anybody from Baltimore,
I think so. I mean, that's a tough town.
Or Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, that's a tough town.
Baltimore, that's random, but at least it's northeast.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Nobody from Detroit or Minneapolis or, somewhere like that, which was typically the hockey grounds. But now because of, the Coyotes and all that, you got bunch of guys who grew up in Arizona or players of sons of NHLers that grew up in weird markets. Like Seth Jones was the son of Popeye Jones, who was a Maverick. So he grew up in Texas part of the time, So
yeah, absolutely. All right. When we come back, Brent Brennan, not a first year that went well for Arizona. He also had a late start. Remember, Jed Fish late took the job at Washington, took a bunch of his staff with him, took some players with him, but not everybody. And then last year, Arizona just did not capitalize on having Fafita, McMillan, among others. had a chance to visit with Arizona football coach Brennan. He's next. This is 365 Sports. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco, a premier life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. New equipment arrived this week. Life Fitness Synergy 360 with several stations to use and plenty of room for a handful of members to work out without bumping into each other. New cardio equipment as well. New and improved elliptical machine and another treadmill among the others already there. Whether it's personal training or group exercise classes and fitness classes, Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness gives you what you need to make sure you get fit, get in shape, lose inches, and also weight, but you feel better. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, 40 group exercise classes, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more, and classes on the weekend. Personal training available, special amenities with sauna in the men's and women's locker rooms, tanning bed, and kids club. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons available. Begin your journey today. WacoTennis.com. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Arizona football coach Brent Brennan joins me. David Smoak, 365 Sports, and we'll see you in about a little bit less than a month at Big 12 Media Days, but we do appreciate you jumping on with us today. You have had the entire offseason, not just part of the offseason. I know last year didn't go the way you planned or wanted it. How much of that makes a difference, do you think, headed into the fall?
I think we're really excited about where we're at right now with this team. We've had a great offseason. We've added some key players in the portal, and we've also added some big-time personnel in the coaching and recruiting department. So I'm excited about where we're at. We're moving forward. Our guys are locked into the process, and we're getting after it every single day here.
Sometimes the portal taketh away, and that happens to everybody. And then also sometimes the portal can allow you to renovate, rebuild, or whatever even quicker. We've seen that happen over the last 3 to 4 years. How much of that did that play a factor in what you're doing?
Well, I think this year the portal was a huge factor, right? Just the timing of when we got hired a year ago or a year and a half ago, missing the first portal, having to survive the head coach portal created by the vacancy here, and then also the spring ball portal. It was a much different way to start the program. And I think where we're at now is just when we came back from Christmas vacation with the team, everybody's like, we're all in and we're moving forward together. And that's the only way we're going to talk about it. That's the only way we're going to do it. And if you want to get in the portal, then go now and just get out now so that we can build the team from the ground up, starting in January all the way through August.
There has been discussion of what to do with the portal. And this is, I mean, there's so many committees, and it gets to the point where just somebody make a decision. What would you rather see?
I think, a singular portal is what college football needs. I would like it to be in January at some point, because I think there's a couple things there. I think number one, you would like to have the entire offseason to build and develop your football team. And then I think also in the reality of revenue sharing with our student athletes, with having two portals or having the portal later in the year, you can be put in a situation where we pay a student athlete for 4, 5, 6 months, and then he leaves, right? And so it's kind of like that money was wasted in the process, and we don't want to do that. So I think in interest of making every dollar count that we put into our student athletes, and also maximizing our chance to build a consistent, sustainable winner at Arizona, I'd like it to be in January.
Brent, what have you learned about the Big 12 in such a short amount of time?
The Big 12 is a tough conference. I think the thing that's really interesting about it is I think the conference is incredibly deep. I think there's, every team in the conference is good enough to beat you. And I think as you kind of prepare for that, you also have to know that when you go on the road, you're not going to play in any empty stadiums. You're going to play in absolutely sold out, rabid fan bases that are on you the moment you step into the stadium.
There are traditions that come with everybody. You have your traditions. Obviously, the 4 schools from the Pac-12 have theirs, and everybody else does. Do you know enough about each program, or does that even come into play?
In terms of like what they do?
Yeah, just their history, their tradition, or what maybe is something that kind of is a point of theirs. I mean, you know what I mean? You go into, for example, you're going to play in new places this year. You played in new places last year, just to kind of get to know the landscape.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in those situations, you lean on coaches that have coached in those other stadiums, that have played in this conference before. I think that's always helpful. And I think as you go and you're playing against and coaching against the same coaching staffs, you also start to build a folder. You build kind of an idea of who they are, what their identity is, what they like to do. And I think that part of it is an ongoing conversation around here. As we build and prepare for the season, we're always attacking one game at a time, but we're building out that through the offseason and also through the summer.
Did you change anything other than adding and renovating the roster, rebuilding the roster, high school transfer portal, et cetera? Did you change anything else from last year to this year?
Well, I think the biggest changes have been, a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, and a new special teams coordinator. I think we've added outstanding coaches that are going to be a lot of fun to watch. We're going to play an attacking, aggressive style of football in all 3 phases. And I think people are going to love watching this football team play. And we need to pack this house in Arizona Stadium. We got a lot of work to do. And we got a tough conference. It's time to go.
Noah Fafita, he lost his Batman with McMillan headed to the NFL. That's part of the deal. You brought in some wide receivers. He, of course, last year, the stats compared to 23 were down. What about where he is both mentally and physically as he enters the summer?
Well, Noah Fafita is a really special young man, and I think people are going to love watching him play in Coach Daigie's offense. I think it's really tailored a little bit to who he is with his ability to deliver the ball quickly and accurately. And I think we've also added some pieces around him that are really going to help through the transfer portal, through the development of some players here, and then through recruiting. So I really love that receiver group. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, and I feel good about the tight end position and the running back room. So I think, to do this the way we want to do it in the attacking style we want to be, we're going to have to distribute the ball all over the field. And I think Noah gives us a great chance to do that.
What was the conversation like, Coach Brennan, with Seth Daigie when you went to talk to him about coming to Tucson?
It was awesome. I think, when we brought him in here to meet with us, I think one of the things that was really interesting to me was he talked about, what they went through at Marshall last year, right? They had a great season. They won the conference, magical run for that program. And when he was talking about it, because I know he was raised by Mike Leach and in the air raid system, right?
Right.
But really what was interesting was about the thing at Marshall was that he was in a situation where he had to kind of alter what they were doing and develop a little bit more quarterback run because their quarterback was really an effective runner. And so that was something that I found interesting. And as we were talking, he was really hell-bent on you have to adjust your scheme to fit your personnel, which I'm a big believer in, because with the transfer portal, your personnel changes every year. So you have to be creative and you have to find new ways to move the football, get first downs and score touchdowns. And when we were talking with Coach Daggy, you could tell right away that he was excited to be creative and excited to figure out what pieces we have here and how they can fit in his scheme and how he can, really best take advantage of what we have to get the production we want.
Did what you do as a coach at other programs before you came to Arizona, did that help build some insight and use the experience now that you have this revenue sharing, salary cap, and all of that to kind of distribute things the way you need?
I think every experience you have as a football coach or as a head coach adds value to kind of who you are, right? We all learn from experience. It's the best teacher. It's also can be the most expensive one or the most painful one. But, what we learned over time is that at the end of the day, building a team, building a roster, and retaining a roster has as much, if not more, to do with us being great men for the players that we coach, caring about them, helping them develop off the field, investing in them, beyond football. And I think, the money is the money, but at the end of the day, if we build a connected, cohesive, committed team, we're going to get the results we want.
Can you trust players as much as you used to? That's part of building the relationship you mentioned. You hope that's the case, but how difficult is that right now?
I don't think it's difficult if you do things the right way. I think, coaching and getting the most out of young men is all about building trust. And the more they trust you, the harder you can coach them and the further you can push them. And so for me, if we're dug into the competition part of it, if we're really focused on getting better and moving the needle every single day as a program and as an individual, the more trust we have, the better chance we have to do that.
You mentioned Noah Fifita. You mentioned what you brought Ishmael Mahdi, who we saw when he was a heck of a player at Texas State, of course, started out at Houston Christian, a tremendous player. How much of an impact can he have on the run game?
Oh, I think we're really excited about him. I mentioned that running back room earlier. Ked Risano is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think, Ishmael Mahdi, Quincy Craig, it's going to be a lot of fun in there. And I think, everybody always wants to focus on a singular tailback, but to have the kind of football team that we want to have, you have to have 3 effective players in there because those guys get banged up. There's a lot of pounding on them. And so you got to have guys that, that you can plug and play and not have the drop off of performance be too significant. So I feel great about all 3 of those guys. I think we're going to love how they look. And I think you guys are going to like watching the young freshman, Corn from North Crowley, man. That kid is a playmaker.
Oh, no, let me tell you something. North Crowley was unbelievable last year. What a run they made. You've had players you've recruited out of the Houston area. Mahdi, of course, played in Plano, at Plano East, and around Texas. How much have you been able to, stick a flag in the state of Texas, and how important is that to you?
I think it's really important because I think every time a player is thinking about going to any university, they do think about, what kind of ability are their parents going to have to see them play in person. I just think that's the reality of it. And I love the fact that we have great proximity here to the state of Texas, but also to the state of California and Utah, all really good states with really high quality players and high quality high school football. So it's really, really been good to us so far. We're really excited about the kids from Texas that have joined us. And then the biggest part is that I think we're doing a great job in the state of Arizona, which is critical. We have to do well here. That's got to be something that is critical for our program. And I am so impressed with how good the high school football is in the state of Arizona. It is big time.
Yeah, it really has. It's really come to a different level in the last decade or so, no question about it. So I asked you about some of the things you learned in the Big 12 and the depth, et cetera. Was there anything in particular that surprised you about your first year inside the Big 12?
I don't know that it surprised me, but I was impressed with the size of the offensive and defensive lines in the conference. Big people, you know what I mean? And it kind of makes sense considering that we're kind of playing football now through the, south, to the East Coast, but just big men. And I think that's one of those things that was a focus for us this season is, getting big guys that can move in the offensive and defensive line because it all starts there, right? Everybody wants to talk about Noah Fifita, and thank God we have Noah Fifita. I love him, but but you got to have the big boys up front, and that's where the work gets done.
What about Noah? His arm, his ability, his ability to be able to move around in the pocket, et cetera. Tell us a little bit, or give us a Noah Fifita story that might be your favorite that maybe summarizes him pretty well.
Football story or an off the field story?
I'll take either. I love human interest. I like the off the field as much as I do the football, no matter what we're covering.
So this young man is so committed to this program. He went home last year when school got out in May, and we had a receiver coming to town, a big time receiver, and so I called him and I said, "Hey, this kid's coming to town. I need your help." He drove back here from Los Angeles to be here for the official visit for this, from Orange County, Juice County, like he likes to call it. But he drove back here for the official visit. That's how important it was to him. That's how much this kid loves the University of Arizona. That's how much he loves the city of Tucson, because he wants to put a product on the team that the city of Tucson's excited to watch. He wants them to come out and cheer for his teammates and cheer for this team and help us have a home field advantage that's impactful.
Can that marinate into the rest of the team? Can that soak into the veins of the rest of his teammates?
Oh, absolutely, and it does. I mean, I've been so impressed with just how these players, how they rally around the recruiting process, how unselfish they are with that. They show up, they want to be a part of it. They want to vet the players that we're bringing in here also, right? They want to make sure that the players that we're bringing into the Bear Down Brotherhood are great human beings and also great football players, right? So they'll watch their highlight tapes. They'll be there part of the recruiting process. They'll be here on the visits because they want to bring the best players we can to continue to elevate our program.
The two schools out of Arizona, obviously Arizona had a great run, and you're trying to put them back to where they were, and ASU had their run. How important is that to feed off each other, and also knowing that Kenny Dillingham and the Sun Devils had a hell of a year last year?
Yeah, absolutely. I respect what those guys did, but I really just focus on what we're trying to do here. I think it's healthy if both the schools in Arizona are playing high-quality football. It adds to the rivalry. It makes that last game, Thanksgiving weekend, have all kinds of intensity and energy and juice behind it, which we love because that's how rivalry should be. And I think it's important because, as teams that are new in this conference, we need to show everybody in the Big 12 that we can play great football here in the state of Arizona.
How about the baseball team giving you a lift, huh? That was I hate they got knocked out, but I mean, they were really, really good and did real well, and it came to an end in Omaha, but that Arizona had an impact on that for the Big 12.
No, it was awesome. I think Chip Hale's a really outstanding baseball coach. The guy's really special. His staff, those players, a year ago they win the Pac-12. This year they win the Big 12 and they get to the College World Series. Just what an outstanding job by those players and that coaching staff. And it was so fun to be along for the ride, right? We were so excited to watch them as they continued on their march.
All right, last thing. I know you're busy. Appreciate your time. I know there's a lot. How much do you get done between now and when you kick off in late August? You have 3 straight home games, and K-State's the third game. I know you're worried about Hawaii first. How much do you get accomplished, or you need to get accomplished? And how do you say on a scale of 1 to 10 where you are now compared to where you were at this time a year ago?
Okay, there's 7 questions in there, so I'll try and
I'm sorry.
I'll try and dive into it. Obviously, this time of year is a huge part in preparation for training camp. Kind of early scouting for our opponents next year. Definitely probably the first 4 games. By then you kind of have more recent film on everybody, but you definitely want to get a baseline with who you're coaching against, what they like to do schematically. So everybody invests a good amount of time doing that now. Right now is also a huge recruiting time for us. So the month of June has been camps every week, and then also official visits on the weekend. And we love the progress we're making with the class of 26. It's going to be a big-time class, and the people of Arizona are going to absolutely love watching these guys play. And so the progress is exciting, but right now the month of June is absolute chaos. And then we can kind of settle in, with the work for training camp and how are we going to structure our practices and how are we going to structure camp and when what days are off and what days are full tilt, and trying to figure all that out so that we make sure we build the best plan. And that's a big task because you're talking through that with your training room, your strength staff, all of your assistant coaches, and obviously the equipment guys and the creative team. So we're in the process of kind of planning that now. So there's still a ton of work to be done. And then the last question I think you asked is where do I feel in regards to where we were at last year?
Night and day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's night and day, man. We are, I just feel like we're way further ahead. I feel like we're in a great spot. I think this team knows what the expectations are for how we work and how we go about our business. These kids have been fantastic buying in. We've just had the highest football team GPA we ever had in the history of Arizona football. So everybody's all on the same page, and we're moving forward together, and I love that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Brent Brennan, head coach at Arizona. David Smoak, 365 Sports. Thank you to Coach Brennan. Mack Brown will join us in the next segment here on 365 Sports, but not until I tell you about Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Back in 2020 in the summer, I had a Chevrolet Tahoe that had nearly 400,000 miles on it, and it had just been finally just like gave up. And so I went to the dealership at Alan Samuels. Ted Teague was there, and I got to know AJ, who I've known a little bit, the sales rep, and he's showing me around the lot. I thought I was going to get a new car. And then I looked off to the side, and they have a fantastic display of pre-owned cars. And I just saw the front of this car. I was like, what is that? And the price on the windshield was, really good. And I was like, okay, something's wrong with it. It ended up just being one of those times. I always say, there's no way you just get that great deal. I did. It was a 2017 Ford Explorer, and I've been driving it ever since. There's been a couple of hiccups along the way, but I love the car, the size of it, and just how it handles as well. Alan Samuels has a tremendous group of pre-owned cars on their lot, but also, of course, they have the Ram trucks. The deals are there. And right now, the 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab, your choice of 1.9% financing for 72 months, $12,000 off MSRP, plus 3.9% flat out, $16,000 off MSRP. So all sorts of options. 1.9% for 72 months, or $12,000 off MSRP and the 3.9% off with your rate. And on top of that, you can just straight get $16,000 off MSRP and get that beautiful 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab right now available as the summer hits at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
365 Sports, as we begin this last hour, we just appreciate the time for Brent Brennan, who's in Arizona, and what he's tried to do there with the Wildcats. And there he is, the Hall of Fame head football coach and person, and Mack Brown, who joins us on 365 Sports. How are you staying busy and yet trying to enjoy at least something sort of a retirement?
Well, David, I've always said you don't retire, you rewire.
Okay, there you go.
You retire, that means it's got tired in there, and it just sounds awful. So I never want to retire as such, but I'm glad we're out of the game. It's not the game I grew up in, and it's time for a lot of those younger guys to take it and move forward with it, and guys like me can still trying to help navigate it, and that will help. But I'm speaking quite a bit. I'm doing some consulting. I'm helping some younger coaches, older coaches like Grant Taft and Coach Royal and Bo Schembechler and Bobby Bowden and Joe Paterno, and it just the names just go on and on. Help me, and that's one of the things I committed to as I got older, is to help give back like they did to me. And then I'm looking at doing a couple of podcasts in the fall. So I don't want to get tied down. I'm spending a lot of time with family. I'm traveling a lot, but having a lot of fun at the same time.
So the house settlement came down. I know it was something that you, when you were coaching, had to be abreast of. Do you think that it will change things enough to where it will calm them down, or does more work need to be done?
I think more work needs to be done. There's too many question marks. We're still not sure about roster size. You start looking at tampering. You start looking at transfer portal. I do think that it will help the schools that didn't have NIL money, because if they want to play in the game now, they've got to come up with $20 million. I'm really concerned about the Olympic sports, just in general, because so much money is going to go to football and basketball. And me being a football guy, but I was also an athletics director at one time, and I'm concerned about some of those sports, and will they be fully funded? Will they be able to keep them? So that's a concern. And I'm really not sure what the evaluation of the $600 or more with the collective is going to mean. What does that mean? Does that still mean that a quarterback gets $1.5 million for going to a car dealership and signing autographs and speaking? It's just it seems entirely too gray to me, and I think everybody needs answers, and they need some urgent answers, because athletics directors now have a horrible situation. Boosters are in a really tough spot because we've got donor fatigue, and they're being asked for money from every sport. And that's very, very difficult. And you start looking at there's 6, 8, 10 schools, maybe 6 that are brand names that have a lot of money, and it's working for them. So it really won't affect them very much. They're going to be able to buy players, and they won't be losing them because they've got money. And at the same time, if a non-brand school wants to really step up and commit to football, this is really the best time ever to have a chance to get in the game. But a large majority of the schools are just going to slip back, and I'm really, really concerned about that. It's we may not see the same level of football at those schools we have before if they become feeder systems. And I also feel like that we need to start making rules at each level of competition. The Power 4 schools need to have their own ruling body. And when you've got a Division II and Power 4 talking about rules at the same time, it's a very, very difficult thing to make it work.
Coach, you mentioned mentoring younger coaches, keeping in touch with them, and obviously, as you point out, there's a lot on their plates nowadays. Who are some of the coaches that maybe you do mentor or talk to on a regular basis, or guys that you enjoy chatting about the game and just life with?
I was so lucky to be in the head coach for 36 years, so I know just about all of them. I've coached against a bunch of them. They were assistants when I was a head coach at times. Being the president of the American Football Coaches Association when Coach Taft was involved as the chairman of the board and the CEO. you just get involved with all the coaches. So many of them will call, and I'd rather not mention their names because
Sure.
that's one of the things that I do is make sure that I'm very discreet with their names and their conversations, because a lot of them would rather people not know that they've reached out.
Mack, has the game itself become too territorialized, if that's even a word, with the conference pride? The SEC and the Big Ten obviously have separated with the money and the power. I know when you had success at UT and the Big 12 was really, really good, but I don't remember that actually ever being a thing. Is that just something that we've gotten into the last few years?
David, if you'll remember, we were down to days where Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State were considering going to the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was days. And then Longhorn Network came in, everything settled down, and then Texas A&M and Missouri leave. So I think when I saw that the ACC and the Big 12 didn't get the same amount of money in the playoffs as the Big 10 and the SEC, I thought we've got problems, because if we're all even as an entity in college football, why wouldn't everybody get the same amount of money? So I think there's a lot of things that will happen over the next 4 or 5 years. You'll continue to see realignment issues. It looks like we're starting to see, is there going to be this group that's going to break off that's going to pay a lot of money? And then some schools don't care enough about football. Some others don't have enough money. So what will happen with them? I think we're headed more toward an NFL model with collective bargaining and player unions and salary caps, and we're going to see contracts for each player, and the players will become more like coaches. They'll have buyouts if they leave and go to another school. So I think we're headed in that direction quickly. The one of the problems is that when Congress gets involved, there's a lawsuit every time the NCAA tries to make a decision. So we've got to get everybody in the same room and get a lot of smart people together and put some common sense into this thing, because we've kind of lost who we are.
You've heard of the fact that you mentioned it, that there could be some separation of an X amount of schools that go play at a different level. How much could that hurt college football, and could you lose fans if only 32 or 40 teams play for the so-called national title?
Yeah, I think it will really hurt fans if we've had a great deal with college football. We didn't pay the players and we didn't pay the parents coming up enough that we got ourselves in this mess, because college football and universities, conferences made a lot of money off of college football and college sports for years. And all we had to do was give a $100,000 annuity to the players when they graduated as a reward for graduation to get them started in their life, $150,000, whatever it was. We could have very easily paid for the parents to come to games. Even before they could have come to bowl games. And so we made it tough. And I can see why players and parents were upset. When I played, you got $15 a month, and that's the way it was for years. And that was called laundry money. Mm-hmm. So we got ourselves behind, and now we're trying to figure it out for the players. We're trying to figure it out for the parents. The donors have donor fatigue, because so many of my friends at the 4 places I coached are top donors, and they're being called for money all the time. And they said they need caller ID, so they won't answer anymore. So, but where's it going to stop? And then when the House settlement that was supposed to be settled in April wasn't settled till now, money just kept pouring in. And I've talked to ADs that said right now it's legal to buy players. So we haven't been consistently good in our lives here at our universities. So I've told our football and basketball coach, go buy every player that you can buy. And one of these days they're going to come to their senses and they're not going to let you buy them anymore. So while you can buy them, let's go buy them and make sure that we can compete at the highest level, because when they start choosing sides and they start determining who's going to be in that upper level group, it's going to be very obvious by the commitment that the university made.
You know, there's a lot of conference tribalism right now, Mack, which I think winds up being silly, especially in what you said, a free agency era. You have coached in the Big 12. You've coached in the ACC, spanning a long time. Now, most recently, the ACC. Do you think that those arguments hold as much water, or is it just we've been so conditioned as people in college football to be like, well, this conference is definitely really good? Or do you see it differently from the perspective on the field?
You go back to the College Football Association with Chuck Ninus, and that's when decisions started being made over TV. And right now, decisions are being made because of money. And with the current climate in college sports, you've got to have money. So if you're losing money, which most of the universities that play college football lose some money, if you're losing it, and then they tell you got to come up with 20 million more, where does it come from? And then the collective outside, you're asking dealerships and businesses and boosters for more money. So where does it stop? And like I said, for the first time in my life, I've seen that the NFL, their complete organization guidelines make sense. And right now they have a lot better game, in my estimation, with their organization than we do in college football. And we're going to have to look very closely at what that means. We were looking last year on our staff. We had 3 ex-NFL players on our staff, and I was asking them at midseason, what does salary cap mean to us? And they said that means if your left tackle's really good and he's asking for $1.4 million, and your right guard and your right tackle are good, they're not as good, but they want $700 each, and you don't have it, you're going to have to decide, do you keep the left tackle and find another right guard and right tackle, or do you move the right tackle to left tackle, keep the guard, and find you another player? Because there's just so much money to go around, and the coaches are making more than they've ever made before. They've got a tremendous amount of pressure because of the money that people are putting into it. People are firing coaches faster than ever before. But you're having to make a decision with that player on your team. What's he worth? And for the first time, we've always said, what's he worth as a starter, a second teamer, a third teamer? What's he worth as a walk-on? But right now, the value is how much money do you pay him? And even when a young guy goes in the portal and you're sitting there, what is it? It's not what he's worth. It's what is he worth to you, and what do you have to pay to get him? And that's where it's very, very tough for coaches trying to make those decisions and still keep some camaraderie in your locker room, where it's a tight-knit bunch with a good culture.
By the way, Mack Brown and the great Vince Young, Mack Brown and Vince Young, will be August the 19th in Waco with the Lone Star Luncheon, looking back at that great team 20 years ago, the 2005 Texas team that won the national title. So with all of what you had when you were at UT, when you arrived, the 98 team, Ricky Williams, et cetera, and you guys, it took about 3 or 4 years. You were good, and then you went over the top with it. What would you be able to do with that same setup and then today's college football rules?
Well, since there basically aren't any rules.
Okay, yeah.
The teams that have money are the ones that are going to make it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it. And fans don't want to hear that don't want to give money. But if you can buy players at a very high level, and then you can maintain your roster, because that's the other thing that's a problem, is maintaining the roster. When you get there, one of your players plays great. There's people that are hiring staff members just to look at other teams and scout their team and see which players that they would want off your team. And so you get a great player, you want to, how long are you going to play him in the fourth quarter? You want people to see him. So, and poor group of 5 coaches. I mean, that has become just an absolute feeder system. I mean, their teams play great and everybody's watching them. And they said that at one time, guys, it was interesting that you're playing a team that's got a great tight end on the other team, and he's not at your level. He's a lower level. The head coach now walks over and speaks to the tight end before the head coach on the other team said, man, you're a great player. If you ever went in the portal, there'd be a lot of people after you. So it's just crazy what's going on. And a lot of people are talking about tampering. The tampering's horrible, and you can't prove it because it's done through agents now. And some are lying about it. I was asked today about somebody getting this much money, and I said, no, nobody's going to get that much money. So it's and that's the other thing. I wish we could see what everybody's getting. I wish it was transparent, and then we knew exactly what every player was getting, and that would be better for the coaches in a strange way, because when a young guy is not telling the truth, they're paying me this, and then you got that agent coming to your collective and saying, well, you're paying that safety this much, and saying, no, you're not. He's not making that much money. He just said he was.
Do you have time to even coach anymore? I know you have the general managers, and they have all these staffs that have exploded with Nagy now at Oklahoma and others that do. Sometimes they have time to even coach.
Well, it's very difficult, because as much as you would like to say, I'm going to coach, man, I'm going to stay away from all the other stuff. The agent won't call you, but he'll call your general manager. He'll call the collective. And at some point, somebody's got to come and ask your opinion. And you've got to do that. It's one thing that I have enjoyed for the first time in my life, is not having a phone in my ear all the time with a negotiation, whether it was recruiting or whether it's NIL or it's just crazy what's happening right now to coaches. And there's two portals. There needs to be one, so they can transfer after spring practice. I was told, David, that Cal lost 5 running backs. After spring practice. That's what happened. How do you get 5 running backs? You can't go find 5 that'll replace the 5 that you've got. So it's definitely a year-round business. And I was on the Nike trip with a lot of the coaches this year, and it's just hard to be happy because they're absolutely worn out. They've got no time away from the sport, and it's easy to say they're being paid. You're still a human being, and you've still got to have a quality of life. And even now with the national championship game, January 20th this year, there were players coming in to those schools to visit while they were in the playoffs. The transfer portal was still live, so players were leaving their teams while they were in the playoffs. There were people coming as early enrollees, so you were having to leave your practice and go talk to the new recruits that were coming in that could come to your playoff game, but they couldn't dress out, and they couldn't be at the game, but they could practice if they had already enrolled in school. So there's a whole lot going on right now, and multitasking is at an all-time high for the coaches.
I was just looking through the recruiting classes that built your 2005 team, Mack, and you guys had some, always top 10, depending on the service, but a couple of number ones in there. Have you ever sat back and thought about the value, like monetarily now, adjusted for inflation, of what that team would have cost? And even Texas would have probably been like, dang, guys, this is expensive.
Well, Vince Young and I are, and he's like an extended family member of ours. We are coming to the Sports Hall of Fame Lone Star Luncheon, and we'll talk about the Sports Hall of Fame, which is so important in Texas, and it's so impressive for the people that are in the Hall of Fame. I was so honored to be put in that group. But Vince Young said one day to me, Coach, if they'd had NIL when I was playing, I'd still be playing. And I think that's true, because Vince would still be making a whole lot of money.
Yeah, and heck, some guys play 8 or 9 years, so he could have played 8 or 9 years or something like. Where were you on the Vince Young touchdown run to win the national championship? I know obviously you're on the sideline. What was that like? Was that a blur? Did everything stand still? What was that moment like for you?
David, a lot of people ask me the question because I showed no emotion. When he scored, and I've said we had to go for 2 because we were up by 1, and they had a really good field goal kicker, and we had to kick off to Reggie Bush. And there were 19 seconds left. So in the coach's mind, good, we scored. What's next? We'd already told them when we score, we were going to go for 2. We already had the play called. I was so afraid guys would leave the bench area and we'd get a 15-yard penalty on the 2-point play, and then we couldn't make it. So there were a lot of things going on in my mind at that time. And then when it was over, it was just craziness all over. And I will say Pete Carroll was so gracious. I finally found him, and he said it's really tough to lose a national championship game. Only two get to play, and there's a winner in the other team. And he said, but you've got a great team, and you deserve to be the national champion. So congratulations. And then I couldn't find Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart, and I always tried to find the best players, and especially the quarterbacks of the other team. And when I got in the locker room and I was talking to our team, somebody said, Coach, before you start, there's a couple of guys that want to say something to you. And I walked back to the door, and it was Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush. And they said, Coach, we missed you on the field, and we just wanted to tell you that you guys have a great football team, and you deserve to win this game. So congratulations. And I thought that was from all three of those folks, just real class.
So would you have been maybe more excited on the Lindale White stop you made than Vince? Because right in that moment, like you just said, I'm just thinking there's 19 seconds left. Reggie Bush is back there. We got to kick the ball in his general direction. And then at least with Lindale White, you're like, hey, we're getting the ball. Like, let's go.
I was excited, but again, you got to score.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm thinking about what formation do we need? We had 2 minutes left. How many timeouts do you have? What plays can you run to get the ball out of bounds? We got to go for two. If we score, got to tell them we got to go for two. So you're haven't won a national championship in 35 years, and you've got 2 minutes to get that done. As a head football coach on the sideline, it's really interesting that you've got so much going through your head that you're talking to either of the staffs when you can flip the phone back and forth, and you really had a special team staff as well. But you go from just talking to Gene Chizik, and it's 4th and 1.5, and you got a chance to win a national championship. You stop them. And I remember Gene said, what if I said, bring them all. I wanted to say bring all 13, but bring 11.
Yep.
And put them all at the line of scrimmage. And he said, what if they throw it? And I said, then I'll go tell Pete, congratulations, great call. So they're not going to be back covering them. And I said, and Lindale White's going to get it. He's gained 250 yards. So we haven't stopped him all night. So he's the guy. We had done a lot better job on Reggie Bush. And then Michael Huff, they penetrate. Michael Huff hits him in the backfield and gets the stop. So I immediately go from there to, okay, offense, make sure we got 11, time, going for two if we score. I always said when we score, not if we score.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just amazing the number of things that a head coach has to think about on the sideline. And you've got your play caller, and you'd like for him to be able to call the plays. And I call plays for a long time, and it's very difficult to have a conversation with a head coach or the assistants and call plays. So we always tried to let the guy that was up there call, because we would be in that position with a 1 minute offense every day in practice at the end. So we would finish practice. So we've done this. And Vince is so upbeat and so positive. He came down to the defense on the 4th and 1 and said, get us a stop, man. You get one stop, we win a national championship. And then when the offense was coming back on the field, Vince said, we're going to score, man. Let's go win us a national championship. And he just had a big smile on his face. And it really relaxed and gave confidence to the rest of the offense and the teammates on the sideline.
It was phenomenal. And sometimes he would be running, and it doesn't look like he was running, and it was just gaining more yards from anyone trying to try to even, if they could even think about catching him. You went to Florida State, played at Florida State. You know how long of a drought Bobby Bowden had to deal with. You know the droughts that some other coaches had to deal with. And I say that word drought. That's not fair, because they were still winning at a high level. Osborne at Nebraska, among others. Did 2005 complete you? Would you have still been fulfilled had you not won a national title at UT?
No, I don't think so. It's another great question, David. Right after the game, the next morning, in fact, I tried to get Coach Royal to come out to the stage with me and accept the national championship trophy, and he sent word through Bill Little, which we all loved, and said, nope, this is Mack's time. Tell him to enjoy it. And then we're walking off the field, and Miss Edith in her 80s is standing up on a ladder with adhesive tape, putting a 4 over the 3 national championships that are written on the equipment truck. So we're trying to be careful and get her down. But the next morning, they give you 6 trophies after the national championship. And I was walking with Coach Royal, and I said, Coach, what does this mean in my life? And he said, oh, it's really hard to get here. When you get here, only one of the 2 wins. And the other one they forget about. They don't even remember he played. They don't even know who the teams are. And he said, so you've done something that very few people will ever do in their life. He said, it means so much to your university and the state. And he said, the problem you got is now you and everybody else going to want to do it again next year, the next year, the next year. And it's really hard to do. So, and I think he was right without question. But he also said, now you got to be more careful what you say, because more people are going to listen. They're going to think you're smart.
Yeah. Couple more questions, Coach, and we appreciate your time. Mack Brown with us.
It is like, even just as a fan, Mack, I can tell you, and look, we're fellow FSU alums, you and I, and the 3 that FSU has won, every time they don't, like, I feel like I ordered steak and got a hamburger, even though those are tough seasons, right? Because it just tastes so much better. But I guess in the mid, like, was it easier? Like, once you did it, was it easier? Like, okay, we've done it. Now I know how to build it. And then you could worry about winning it when you got to that point, because it was never hanging out there over you anymore.
Yeah, it is. But there again, we're number 1 in the country, and we lose to Tech in Lubbock, and lose a chance to win another national championship. We're playing Alabama for the national championship in 2010. Colt gets hurt on the 5th play of the game. Or I still think to this day, and it doesn't matter because he got hurt, but I still think we would have won another national championship in that year. So what you do is your goals, when you haven't won one for 35 years, it's a dream to win a national championship. It's a goal to win a conference championship. When you win one, now it's a goal to win the national championship. And Urban Meyer wins his first national championship. He calls me and says, what do you think? And I said, quit. Leave. Go somewhere else and win another one, because now all people are going to expect this for you to do this again every year. But it's wonderful that one of the things that I've enjoyed doing so much is this team 20 years ago won the national championship. They're still very close. They've had luncheons. They're talking about movies about the season. They've had panels together. They've had dinners. So I've spent a lot of my time just going back and being with them and reflecting and just talking about that year and how much fun it was. And it's funny that those guys were so good, and they were, I mean, their culture, their camaraderie, their friendship, it was so good. Most of them are successful now, and they're still very, very close friends. And that's another thing I'm worried about. I'm worried about too many transfers not graduating. And I'm also worried that we're not going to have that friendship, that bond that team had in 05, because people are transferring. You transfer 4 times, you're not going to have a home. You're not going to have the same friends. Fans won't know who their teams are. So I'm concerned about that moving forward, and it makes me even more concerned because the 2005 team was so close, and they're so close to this day. They do business together. They hang out together. I mean, it's like they're still in college having fun, and that's been a joy to watch them.
My last thing for you, the Aaron Ross, Tim Crowder, Matthew Melton, and I know there were others, but I remember covering those young men when they played at John Tyler. And I remember that Aaron Ross had to go through the adversity of the clearinghouse and how that devastated him and how you handled it. He always talked about that, Mack, of how you handled that time. And you're right, the relationships and the memories and all of that. You hope we don't lose that, but I do think that eventually that there's not going to be as many of those great stories along the way.
No, we've got a better chance at places like Texas, where most of the players will stay because they can get a better situation at Texas than they can transferring. But a lot of the situations just are going to lose their best players every year. And even at North Carolina, David and guys, we would lose our backups because they wanted to start. We didn't have any money. So they could go play somewhere else and make more money. So it was even hard to keep your depth. So I worry about that. When you transfer, there's about a 63% chance that you graduate if you transfer one time, because some of your classes don't transfer. So can you imagine transferring a second time, a third time, a fourth time, or a fifth time? They're not going to graduate. They won't have a home. They won't have a relationship with boosters that can help them get jobs. And they'll make more money in the NIL up front than they will when they graduate. And I'm really worried about mental health. And that sounds like an old coach, but I mean, we're still in this about the players. And I'm really, really concerned that if we get away from degrees and we get away from the importance of the degree, that's when they feel good about themselves. That's when they have opportunities to get jobs, and they get jobs with the boosters that they had relationships with while they were at school. And if they're at 5 different schools, they're not going to have that relationship.
Yeah, and I brought this up, the progress to a degree, which was supposed to be a big deal. And I know that I brought it up, and Craig and Paul said, well, they can just look at a computer, but I still wonder if they're slipping through the cracks when it comes to that too.
David, last year we had the #1 APR, which is retention rate for graduation, like graduation rates. Last year in the ACC, we were tied for 3rd nationally with Northwestern, and nobody even cared.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. We've got to make that important again, because we've got to make the players important, not just how much money they get.
Please tell Sally we appreciate giving us the time you gave us, and you guys have a great rest of your night. We appreciate it, Mac. Thank you so much, and don't stop trying to help turn this game around and make it a better game into the future. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys, and we'll see you on August 19th.
Yes, sir. August 19th at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, the luncheon with Vince Young and Mack Brown. You can go to tshof.org for more information. Google it. Then you have tickets available, seats available, tables available, sponsorships available to hear Mack Brown and also Vince Young. When we come back, we're going to look at the schedule of the UCLA Bruins. We'll also have the top 5 and, of course, Andrew Valade and his poll results of that and more. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. It's not .com. That's where you find them online. It's Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in the southern part of Waco. It's a really nice, beautiful area that has a bunch of businesses, and it has Ideal MRI. And Dr. Rob Maxey and the partners put together a business to do a couple of different things. He's been in the medical business forever. Let's put a state-of-the-art imaging machine, not just something that's there, state-of-the-art imaging machine, and we're going to do MRIs, and we're going to help the people, the customers, the patients, the doctors, et cetera, who need to know what's going on inside somebody's knee, shoulder, back, whatever it might be. And unfortunately, even inside the head, abdomen, and elsewhere. And then $497, they have stuck at that number for as long as I've known them, since they opened the doors. $497 or less. IdealMRI.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
To
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
We continue with, it's not every day, depending on what we have when it comes to programming, content, and more, but we look at schedules. We've been through the SEC. We have been through the Big 12. ACC, excuse me. And now, of course, we're starting to wind down. It still takes me kind of like, wait a minute, wind down the Big Ten. Craig Smoak, the UCLA Bruins.
Yeah, I think we are getting close to the end of the Big Ten. And if we just don't take like 2-week breaks in between schedules like we kind of did there, I think last month we kind of went a ways without doing one for a few days. And as so long as we avoid that, I think we should have all of these done certainly before the season starts, but hopefully we can try to get it in before media days, which I think is possible. I think we'll be cutting it like maybe right up close to it, but regardless, we do have the SEC left. But first, the Big Ten remaining teams, and today is UCLA, so we are getting towards the end of the alphabet there. But let's start off with the Bruins and just kind of what last year looked like. This isn't a deep dive, obviously, but 5-7 under first-year head coach Deshaun Foster, and first-year coordinators there, Eric Bieniemy, obviously a very well-known name there as their OC. But the offseason, of course, completely headlined. And I don't even know what else the second biggest story at UCLA was this offseason outside of the Nico saga and him eventually landing there with the Bruins. So they'll have Nico as the trigger man. How much better does that make them? I don't know. But big year 2 for Deshaun Foster after replacing Chip Kelly. So what does their schedule look like, and is there a path to at least take the step up to making a bowl game, which they fell just a game short of last season? So things get started on August the 30th in a very interesting contest, as it will be the Utah Utes at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, an 8 o'clock game on Fox. So right out of the gates, getting a big challenge there, and vice versa, Utah and UCLA. So I like this one, and this is one of those games where I don't think the Big Ten's in there going like, we need wins over the Big 12 to, make us raise our profile. But I do think that teams in the Big 12 need wins over teams in the Big 10 and the SEC to raise their profile. So this is a very important game, I believe, for Utah, and just kind of the early look at the league. So that'll be Saturday, August the 30th, late night kick. But a nice one there on opening weekend. Then Saturday, September the 6th, they will travel to Las Vegas for a meeting with Dan Mullen and his running Rebels of UNLV, who we just talked about in depth a bit earlier in the show. So Utah then at UNLV, followed by a Friday game on September the 12th against New Mexico, that at home. And then they get their first bye week, as they will have a nice clean schedule of 3 weeks of non-con games and then a break. And then you get into conference play and you'll have another break, but non-con and then all Big Ten action after that. But it's a hell of a non-con, man. I mean, Utah, we'll see UNLV, we'll see, but Utah at home and then at UNLV is certainly a couple better games than I've seen on some other schedules that we've done so far.
Like there's a shot out of here that they would be 1-2.
Sure,
I mean, there really is. I mean, like more so than a lot of other teams in the Big Ten that would have the same schedule. So, but like again, I'm very bullish on Utah. So I think that'd be a great one to open up. As a matter of fact, I know which, what corner of the YouTube TV for the 11 o'clock kicks is going to be tuned onto that one, because that's very intriguing. Nico's first presumed start. I guess there's a shot somebody could beat him out. I don't think so. No. You don't go and get him. But yeah, Nico's first presumed start there at Utor, he could get injured. But yeah, I think even in the UNLV game, look, Dan Mullen steps into a team that, I know lost some guys and lost their quarterback, but he's a good coach and they've been able to get good players. And that's a team that's kind of used to winning right now. So those first two, and look, New Mexico wasn't bad last year either, but Utah has their quarterback now. So, we'll see what happens there. But even still, that's 3 pretty good games to start out. I mean, if you're making a schedule that I think a lot of people couldn't scoff at, I think congratulations, UCLA. You made a non-conference schedule that's pretty damn good, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does have some nice challenges there right out of the gates. So a Friday game, as I mentioned, that'll be their only weeknight game. Everything else is Saturday. But following the break, they open up Big Ten play September 27th at Northwestern. Then the following week, it'll be Penn State at home in L.A. October the 11th, back on the road. And their entire schedule throughout Big Ten play, but the entire schedule, period, is home and away, home and away, home and away. There is no back-to-back home games. There's no back-to-back road games. There's just all rotating every single week. So at Northwestern, Penn State at home, then at Michigan State on October the 11th, back at home October the 18th to host Maryland, and then close out the month of October. So 4 games there in the month of October. Close out the month of October at Indiana. So heading to Bloomington to take on the Hoosiers, who are obviously rolling in hot. But at that point, 2 months into the season, who knows where they are. But on paper, there you go, that second stint before they get into their second bye week there. You have, as I mentioned, at Northwestern, Penn State home, at Michigan State, Maryland at home, at Indiana. How you feeling about wave 2 of the schedule for UCLA there?
I think it's fairly challenging, especially that Penn State and Indiana, there's so
Michigan
much.
State could be a lot better too.
Michigan State could be a lot better. Jonathan Smith year 2. He's a very, very good coach, and he got that job for a reason. So we'll see. I think the thing, though, that Craig, that you mentioned about their schedule of not having back-to-back home games and ping-ponging back and forth all season, that's going to play a factor to me at some point. Because most of these other teams, and we've seen them, like how many teams in the Big Ten don't leave their home stadium for a month?
The 2 closest home games they will play, the 2 closest road games they will play is Las Vegas to play UNLV. So that's nothing. That's a typical trip for people who live in LA. And then it's USC, so cross town. But outside of that, you're going to Ohio, to Indiana, to Michigan, to Illinois. And so, yeah, they're traveling a bit more, but that was all what you signed up for, right? So it's part of the deal there. But as opposed to your old digs where it was a lot of in-state or around you or neighboring states like Arizona, you have a lot of travel to halfway across the country. So they get into phase 3 after that Indiana road game. We'll see where they are at that point, how many wins they may or may not need for bowl eligibility. But their final month, all games in November, starting on Saturday, November the 8th, they will play host to Nebraska. Then November 15th, they go to Columbus to take on the Buckeyes of Ohio State. November 22nd at home against Washington. So getting some of that Pac love still, and they'll continue that on into the final week as on November the 29th, they are at Southern Cal for the Battle of Los Angeles, if you will. And that's how they'll close it out. Nebraska, Ohio State, Washington, USC. When you see a smidge of a schedule like that, I will say that when you're talking to people who need the big game to be attracted to watching their team, which is a lot of people now is kind of how they're conditioned because they've got sports betting brain and immediacy brain. It's hard to argue when you look at no disrespect, because I have more respect for Arizona and Arizona State than probably a lot of national people do when they're talking about those teams, unless they're the hot team of the moment, right? But if you're one of those that like, we signed up to play big names, big games. I don't know how big the games will be, but Nebraska, Ohio State, Washington, USC to close the last – that's pretty damn good, man. That's some big names and potentially some big games.
Nebraska's
okay, I'm talking historically. You don't always have to be like self-deprecating.
No. I'm saying Nebraska is still a name. Yeah, I've always talked about the logos. Those are 4 big-time logos, no question.
And look, I think that if you are if you're UCLA, if you want to get to that bowl game, you better be at 5 before you get to that last 4 stretch.
Oh, for sure.
And the thing is, if you're not at 6, depending on how, especially the teams not named Ohio State improve, year over year. Look, they all have young quarterbacks that they like.
But Fish in his second year,
all that. So all those things that coming down, like you may want to be at 6 if you're talking bowl game before then, and the fact that you also have Indiana, who people think isn't really going anywhere. Like they may take a slight step back, but everybody loves Kurt Cignetti. You've got Penn State. You've got Michigan State year 2. This is a tough schedule.
The game with Utah could be one that allows them to know who they're going to be. I know that's way early, but compared down the stretch.
I think you're right, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I apologize. I'm just so used to when you talk about Nebraska, it's always like, they're nobody.
No, they're still a name. Yes. There's a question about, okay, but who are they, and who knows who they are? But no, they beat Nebraska last year in Lincoln. It's 27-20. It was one of their better games of the year, and that's always been the kind of game that lately in the last 10 years Nebraska loses. So UCLA did win last year. Quarterback played well. Nebraska turned it over. So there's a stretch down this. I love that's a fantastic schedule. If I'm a fan, you're going to see some really good football teams and some pretty nice road trips.
Oh, man, if I can swing it and I don't necessarily do it every year, I need to look at the schedule. This is definitely season ticket year. I mean, I don't even think there's a question about that. You're buying season tickets if you're a hardcore UCLA fan who needs to see the schedule. Now, granted, some of those bigger games are on the road, but yeah, if you're one of those that can swing that, then this is the year to do it because there is a lot of names and potentially a lot of big games that are on there. I have no clue how good they're actually going to be. I don't think Nico's like the savior by any means, but he's definitely a good player that could make them much improved offensively. So they're an interesting team heading into this season that without that move, I don't know what we're talking about. I mean, we're talking about year 2 with the staff and things like that, but the Nico move puts more eyes on them for better or worse. And, yeah, there's a lot of names on here. So I would think this is one of the tougher schedules in the entire country. I mean, from top to bottom, you start off with Utah and UNLV on the road, and then you get into all the Big Ten teams that we mentioned there. They do miss a couple of them, which I'll get to, but I actually just Googled real quick. And you can turn off the AI, right, on the Google search, but I don't think I've done that yet. And so the AI answer always pops up, and it's not always accurate. I've learned that very quickly. It's not always accurate. But I did ask hardest schedules in the country, CFB 2025, and it does not have them listed. It doesn't even have them as an also-ran. So one of the teams that allegedly has a tougher schedule is Wisconsin, which looking at it, I could see the case for that. We'll get to them in, I guess, a couple of days or so. But, UCLA, not listed there, but I'd have to imagine this is up there. I mean, to me, on paper at least, it looks pretty tough. But maybe I'm just being blinded by the big fan bases. I don't know. So as far as who they don't play, they will not play Indiana.
They are playing.
Or excuse me. Okay, sorry. I had X's next to the teams that actually they do play. I was reading it backwards. They don't play Illinois. They don't play Iowa. They don't play Michigan. They don't play Minnesota. They don't play Oregon. They don't play Purdue, Rutgers. Obviously, they don't play themselves. They don't play Wisconsin either. So no Wisconsin. Who knows with Luke Fickell, really. Purdue's more interesting, but that's not like a big miss on the schedule necessarily, but they should be better. Not playing Oregon's obviously a break. Not playing them. Michigan, I don't know how good they'll be, but you miss them as well. So Iowa, always tough. Illinois, good last year. So they do. Big Ten's got pretty good depth. I mean, when you start to really break it down with all the expansion additions.
Their depth, it depends on Wisconsin bouncing back,
Nebraska,
Indiana staying who they were, Nebraska being better, And then, by the way, UCLA and USC being a part of that conversation.
So there you go. They're over-unders. I was looking at it. It was like 4.5 some places, 5.5 other places. That's about right. So there you go. There's the UCLA schedule. It's going to be a tough one, but an interesting one for the Bruins.
All right, Craig, thank you very much. Who's next?
Next
USC.
we have USC.
USC, the Trojans, and Lincoln Riley and company. Okay.
We have a super chat real quick, Smokey.
Okay, here we go. Super chat from Mack placed a national championship sugar cube in the cow's mouth, and they dismissed him. Since then, the Cow fans have been sucking on that cow's behind, waiting for it to turn sweet. Good God Almighty! They did linger, and they wandered. You know, again, there's some people at the time, no matter what he did, which was unbelievable. They had the 2010 team with Garrett Gilbert that did not pan out, that had high expectations. But yeah, they went through a wilderness or a wilderness with Charlie Strong and Tom Herman. Looked like he had and now Sarkisian, of course, is trying to go back to back with what would be 3 really good seasons in a row.
Well, thank you for the super chat, and we'll see. They're knocking on the door, but so long as that door doesn't get answered, then people are going to have fun with the close but no cigar aspect of it all for sure.
Absolutely. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5, also King Jiu-Jitsu and his poll result. And we will need, if Emery and Andrew, the Sophie Cunningham moment, and get a note about a hold that she had on an opponent yesterday, if Andrew approves on her format or her style. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people you can count on for your automotive needs, and the people that the people here in Central Texas have been counting on for years and years now over at Richard Carr. Whether you're looking to get into a new model, if you're looking to get into a pre-owned vehicle, or you're just looking to get into something that you get peace of mind driving it, not the old clunker that maybe you've been in for a long time, something that allows you to drive without worrying about too many things. They've got all of that over there with Richard Carr right now, celebrating their red, white, and blue tag event, and every new or used car and truck is priced with special American size savings. So, for example, you can save on all 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models in stock. Qualified buyers can save $8,750. If you're looking to go the pre-owned route right now during the red, white, and blue sales tag event, you can find hundreds of used cars priced to move for your upcoming summer travel. All pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and 100% credit approval is always their goal. So take advantage of the pre-owned savings right now, or the new car savings, like on the 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models, locally owned, locally run. Do business in Waco with a dealership you can count on. Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. This little number, Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com, use our promo code 365sports for a discount at checkout. We're going to keep going through our Big 12 transfer newcomers because I want everybody to get to know the new guys in the conference. And then eventually we'll move on to other conferences as we hurdle throughout the summer. But we're only on school number 2. And look, if you're wondering about the order, I wanted the on3.com transfer rankings. So if you're mad about which order I do this in, blame the good folks at on3.com. On3.com, the 4th recruiting site invented by Shannon Terry. Okay, Big 12 transfer newcomers. Sick'em edition. Let's talk Baylor. Number 5. Linebacker Travion Barnes. This guy, sideline to sideline, they needed help on defense. They needed more depth at the linebacker position. They need more depth in the front 7, the secondary, all of it. And this is one of the better players that they've gotten. Stepping up a level. I personally, these are my favorite kind of transfers. I so much don't enjoy necessarily the big school to big school transfers. Those bore me. But the guys who are now earned their way at maybe a level up, if you think of it that way, or have shown out that were under-recruited a little bit. Travion Barnes, one of those guys, and Dave Aranda knows his linebackers really, really well. I can go through a litany of them, but he's pretty good at that position. Number 4, safety Tyler Turner. Now, look, this one goes against that rule I just said, but a superb athlete, comes down from Oregon, knows Matt Pallage. That should be a boon for the secondary, which struggled a lot last year. In fact, it was kind of the surprising weakness of the defense, given what they thought they had coming back. I think it will be more of a strength this year, but guys like Tyler Turner have to step in and contribute right away in a big way. Number 3, defensive tackle Samu Talman Upepe. Comes from A&M, big guy, space eater in the middle. Did I not say that right, Emery? Okay, just making sure. I'm pretty sure I said it right, and Emery decided to laugh at me. But big Samu here, space eater in the middle. Comes from Atascocita High School. This guy can take up 2 blockers a lot. And that's what they need. That's what they want to see. They've got to stop the run. This signing should help that if he gets on the field as fast as he should. Comes in from A&M. Number 2, quarterback Walker White. Yes, he's the backup, but Sawyer Robertson has never played a complete game, 12-game season, and it just stands to reason that your quarterback's going to get hurt. Last year, before Sawyer Robertson started, the quarterback, DeQuan Finn, the first guy they rolled out of there, got hurt. Now, Sawyer Robertson came into his own last year, one of the best quarterbacks in the conference and the entire country now. But if he gets hurt, now they have a backup that they really like coming in from Auburn, and Walker Wright. I've heard a lot of good things about this guy right here. And number 1, wide receiver Kobe Prentice comes in from Alabama. The loss of Ashton Hawkins made wide receiver a priority, and they signed several, including 2 or 3 in the last month or so, because the depth at that position, not really what they want. And wide receiver, even after the Big 12 championship year, has been a bit of a struggle to get consistent depth. Now, look, they've got Josh Cameron on one side. He's the best receiver they have and one of the best in the conference. And he turned down big-time money offers from big SEC schools to transfer. So they've got Josh Cameron on one side, but they've lost Hal Presley. They've lost Ketron Jackson. Ashton Hawkins is out of eligibility, and they're likely not to see him pending in some sort of appeal, and it's getting pretty late in the game for that to happen. So they've gone out and gotten other wide receivers. Kobe Prentice, highly recruited guy, lots of athletic ability. Let's see how he fits in there, and he's the name that most people would know. That's going to do it for this top 5. Andrew Verlade has been working on the polls. Smokey will now inform you of your results.
All right, thank you, Paul. Before we do that, this is a picture of Sophie Cunningham with the Indiana Fever wrapped up with some girl, Sheldon, who no one knew until last night, who plays for, I don't know who it is. Andrew, I saw this. This is from Mikey P. Notice the Muay Thai. Him too.
Yeah.
The Muay Thai, is that a drink?
No.
The Muay Thai grip as well. I've heard that's like a UFC type move. What's going on here?
Yeah, well, Muay Thai is like a stand-up fighting martial art, and the grip that she's using is just to have control over her, obviously, and controlling her head. They say like controlling the head is like how you control the whole body. So I think for her, she just, grabbed some of her hair too, probably, and just, manhandling her.
She was manhandling her. And the Sheldon girls.
I haven't seen the video, but that's the way it looks. And obviously she's really upset. But yeah, and that's obviously like when you do a Muay Thai fight, you can probably knee somebody from there or like throw an elbow or something. So there's a lot of different things.
So that girl's lucky as hell. Other people were around her at that particular time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She, by the way, I saw where she like won a black belt or earned her black belt when she was 6 years old.
Wow.
Sophie Cunningham. And when did you earn yours?
Well, I have a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and that's been from like 4 years of training. So
wow.
I think it takes about 15 years to get a black belt.
Yeah.
So.
You're not even that old. He can't even be. No way.
Jiu-jitsu is tougher. By the way, we've got screensaver up here so we can see the poll results behind you.
Yeah,
So,
okay. All right. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Emery Winter, Sophie Cunningham's #1 fan, without question. All right. Here are the poll results from Andrew Valade. Which college football record do you think is still breakable? I went with the Barry Sanders rushing yards because Ashton Jeanty even kind of went after that a little bit. And, of course, the number of games that are played might have something to do with that. The Mayfield-Mahomes double 1,708-yard game when Texas Tech and OU played an incredible game. Nick Saban's 9 college football championship wins, 28%. Breakable? And then truly unbreakable, none. I said the rushing games because I don't think anyone's going to get the 9 championship. Bear Bryant had that for a long time. No one's going to win more than that.
I think somebody will. I don't know that Mayfield Mahomes game. That's going to be tough, but I think that's probably the most easily repeatable because it's just a one-off event of a game, right? So
1,708 yards
between the two of them. But I do like Barry Sanders rushing yards. There's always generational players like Ashton Jeanty is.
Yeah.
So he could have really maybe knocked to the door, especially now since they play more games.
That's what I said.
Yeah. So I agree.
That's why I picked the Barry Sanders number. The other poll that we have are the Panthers NHL's next great dynasty. I think when you've been to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, you've won 2 of them. I said yes, back-to-back champions. Too early to say 39%. And then after that, really just a trickle down. Oilers will rebound next year and one-time wonder. No, they're not a one-time one because they've won twice. They've won it twice. So there you go. Andrew, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Garrett Ross, thank you very much for running the mothership and dialing up all what we did. And Emery is working on 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. For Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, thanks to our great guest today. Thanks to you who watch us when you do or how you do and our sponsors. I'm David Smoak. Good night.